Chapter 600. Wang Lu had embarked on the path of cultivation for more than 20 years, and had faced countless dangers and difficulties, but the word despair could be counted on one hand. No matter how difficult the situation was, there was always hope for a breakthrough. This was the creed of professional adventurers. But at this moment, Wang Lu really felt that the situation was hopeless. The words that Grand's senior sister said before she left made him rack his brains to think of no way to defend himself. It could be said that at this time, whether he admitted it or not, the result was exactly the same. It could be seen from the expressions of the people in the audience. The only way to stop the spread of rumors was to do it on the spot and let facts speak louder than words. However, although Wang Lu still had some confidence in his endurance, to do the yin and yang thing in broad daylight under the watchful eyes of the public was really shameful. Moreover, at this moment, he at least needed a target. He couldn't show everyone how dexterous his left and right hands were, could he? But as for the target, who should he look for? Although the audience was intoxicated by the reputation of the legendary King Pill, and there were a lot of women who were willing to have sex with him, Wang Lu did not want to spread his seeds all over the world. Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he was not a casual man. Unable to do it in practice, and unable to refute it with words, Wang Lu was in a desperate situation. In his heart, he thought, Grand's senior sister, just you wait. However, perhaps there was always a way out. Just as people began to discuss Zhu Shiyao's parting words, suddenly, a wave of noise spread from far to near. What could shatter a gossip was always another more powerful gossip, and the person passing by at this time was undoubtedly a very strong source of gossip. Finally saved. Wang Lu sighed, then looked up to the distance and greeted, "Good morning, Taoist Master Miao Yan." As soon as his voice fell, there was a blur in front of him, and a well-dressed woman appeared in the martial arts arena. Dressed in a gorgeous and dazzling dress, the colorful gems were as bright as stars. However, such an exaggerated dress would not make people feel disgusted, because every detail of her was gorgeous and just right, setting off her appearance and figure to be flawless. Along with her entrance, the entire martial arts practice field seemed to shine brilliantly. Everyone in the audience, regardless of gender, felt their hearts palpitate. Taoist Master Miao Yan, a peerless beauty from Xiuqing Villa who focused on aesthetics, was famous for her meticulously crafted peerless face and her unparalleled beauty technique. Now, as the person in charge of the beauty contest group, she was committed to building a beautiful team of 9 regions. In the competition with the Dixian, the beauty contest was the highlight of the literary competition. Both the attention and the weighted score were quite high. The Wuxia League spared no effort in investing resources on this team. All kinds of rare treasures that could drive girls crazy were piled up like a mountain in the warehouse of the beauty contest group. The mysterious Sky Mansion's propaganda machine was also in full swing, recruiting beautiful girls and men with sufficient aptitudes from all the major cultivation sects in the world, and even from the mortal world. To be able to join this team not only meant that one could get the full effort of Taoist Master Miao Yan and enjoy the precious resources donated by the major sects for free, but it also meant that one would become famous and become a peerless beauty, man, recognized by the Wuxia League. Of course, it was precisely because the benefits were so obvious that people flocked to it like a flock of ducks that the difficulty of joining it could be imagined. Generally speaking, 1 in 10,000 beauties, men, didn't even have the qualifications to see Taoist Master Miao Yan and would be eliminated in the preliminary stage. Conversely, now that Taoist Master Miao Yan had been recognized as a member of the team, there was no doubt that the beauty, man, was enough to compete with the Dixian. Every time Taoist Master Miao Yan went out, she would bring 1 or 2 team members with her. Taoist Master Miao Yan herself was committed to the pursuit of the ultimate realm of beauty and had no interest in the relationship between men and women. However, she was quite interested in matchmaking. Therefore, if one could perform well in front of Taoist Master Miao Yan, it was possible to start a wonderful journey of love. Not long ago, there was indeed a lucky man who fell in love with a peerless beauty. It was unknown how many men gnashed their teeth in hatred. Now that Taoist Master Miao Yen accidentally visited the royal soldier sect, it was the time for them to do their best. At this moment, who cared about Wang Lu's private gossip? Unfortunately, at this time, Taoist Master Miao Yen had no interest in the performance of those hungry and thirsty people. She just stood on the stage and then looked at Wang Lu with disgust. It's still this Una aesthetic dress. I remember telling you, don't talk to me while dressed like this. No, don't talk to me with this man's face. Call Wang Lulu out. Right now, our beauty contest group is seriously short of people. Although there are a lot of problems with your face, since you cultivate non-phase method, if you carefully polish it, you can still fight. That's it. Quickly quit this senseless and vulgar fighting group and concentrate on transforming into Wang Lulu to fight with me in the beauty contest group. Upon hearing this, Wang Lu sighed again. With great difficulty, he finally got rid of the gossip crisis of his big sister, but unexpectedly, he jumped into another fire pit. When this Taoist Master Miao Yen participated in the team formation meeting, she took a fancy to Wang Lu as the chief planner and strongly persuaded him to join her group of peerless beauties. Unfortunately, with the identity of Wang Lulu, only God knows where she learned about Wang Lulu's matter. For this kind of thing, Wang Lu was both angry and amused. Even if I participate in the beauty contest group, I will still participate as a man. Miao Yen sneered. With your condition, you can only transform into a woman and join the women's group. With the contrast in temperament, you have the power to fight. Of course, it's a pity that there's no trap group. Otherwise, with my professional packaging, you are expected to reach the top 3. As for the men's group, your face has not been specially maintained and carefully designed, so no one will want it. Thinking of his own face, which was the same as Wang Wu's, and had never applied any skincare cosmetics, Wang Lu had to say, I can design the selling point to be wild beauty. There are many beast men in the Beast Master School, and there's as much natural wild beauty as you want. After Taoist Master Miao Yen finished speaking, she suddenly froze, her eyes locked on the rouge tears in Wang Lu's hand. Wait, ask the one inside your sword to come out and let me see. Wang Lu was also stunned. Autumn beam? Yes, that's her. This little girl seems to have experienced a lot. The last time we met, she was just a piece of unpolished jade, but now she has really begun to shine. I didn't expect you to have such a good product by your side. Quickly bring her out and let me train her. Damn, are you a beautician or a pimp? Although he said that, looking at Taoist Master Miao Yan's appearance, she did not seem to be joking, so Wang Lu called out Autumn Beam. Unfortunately, as soon as Autumn Beam appeared, she seemed quite unhappy. Master, Autumn Beam is just a sword spirit. She focuses on the way of the sword and has no intention of being distracted. Moreover, she doesn't like to be watched as a product. Wang Lu nodded and said to Miao Yen, look, that's what the person said. Taoist Master Miao Yen gave a thumbs up and said, what I want is this noble and elegant temperament. Especially when a person with this temperament is forced to participate in a beauty contest to be judged, that kind of unwillingness and even humiliation is simply a manifestation of the ultimate beauty. The more I look at you, the more I feel that you're a pure pervert. Alas, it's useless to explain it to people like you who don't understand aesthetics. In short, just leave it to me. If this beauty is hidden, it would be a crime against the entire 9 regions. Moreover, at the founding meeting of the team, you stood on the rostrum and said that this competition was related to the life and death of 9 regions, and that anyone and any organization must unconditionally obey the overall situation. It was because of this sentence that I was caught by you from the villa to be a beautician. Don't tell me that when it comes to you, you want to shrink back. I didn't force you to become Wang Lulu in the girl group, which is already a compromise. That's true, but Autumn Beam is the sword spirit of my immortal sword, and as the main force of the King Pill level in the fighting group, I can't do without the help of the sword spirit. What kind of reason is that? The competition is not carried out at the same time, can't you just participate one after the other? Don't forget that I also have Qiong Hua in my team. Isn't she also the main force of the King Pill group? Hearing Taoist Master Miao Yan's words, Wang Lu was at his wit's end. It was just that, looking at Autumn Beam's embarrassed look, he really didn't want to force her to participate. However, on the other hand, it was not easy to persuade Taoist Master Miao Yan. By the way, how about this, I'll make an exchange with you. I'll recommend you a peerless beauty as a replacement. Taoist Master Miao Yan said, do you want to recommend Lu Li, Zhu Shiyao, and Bai Shixian? They have long been my favorite candidates, so you don't need to recommend them. No, I guarantee that it's a mysterious beauty that you've never seen before, and the quality is higher than Autumn Beam. With your aesthetic ability, do you know the difference between good and bad? You take a look first. If it's not suitable, you can force Autumn Beam. When the time comes, I will have no complaints. Taoist Master Miao Yan hesitated for a moment, and finally, looking at the face of Wang Lu, the chief planner, she nodded. Soon after, Wang Lu led Taoist Master Miao Yan to his room. Before entering, he said loudly, Master, someone is looking for you. A lazy voice came from the room, if it's to collect debts, help me send them away. In any case, you have a lot of public funds in your hands. No, it's Taoist Master Miao Yan, the person in charge of the beauty contest. Wang Wu's voice suddenly became a bit more energetic. Did she bring the girls to me to ask for advice on telepathic finger? She came to you to participate in the beauty contest. Not interested. While the master and disciple were talking, Taoist Master Miao Yan's eyebrows wrinkled more and more tightly. Wang Lu, you want to recommend me to your master? Don't joke around. What kind of beauty is there in that kind of careless and shameless woman? Wang Lu said, that's just because you don't realize how powerful her subjective initiative is. Don't forget that the non-phase method that you value is created by her, and her attainments in it are 10 times higher than mine. In short, Wang Lu turned his head and said, Master, if you can be selected into this team, there will be an unlimited supply of all kinds of rare treasures. And if you can become the main force of the team, you can have hundreds of millions of yuan just by virtue of popularity alone. When the time comes, you can write an autobiography and publish a photo album, and the spirit stones will be as endless as the Yangtze River. I know, come in. Wang Lu pushed the door and entered. As soon as he entered the door, he was as if petrified, motionless. Within the bedroom, a peerless beauty with long hair that flowed down like a waterfall in a plain white dress was lazily leaning against the window. Her flawless appearance and enchanting curves revealed an unprecedented shock. If there was anything in this world that was perfect, it would definitely be this scene right now. Just when Wang Lu was deeply shocked by this scene, the woman in white smiled sweetly, stood up from the window, and then reached out her hand to the equally shocked Taoist Master Miao Yan behind Wang Lu. Hello, I am Murong Bingli Night Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wuer. My dream is to be the #1 idol in 9 regions. I hope we can work hard together in the future. Chapter 601. When he came out of the room, Wang Lu felt that his whole brain began to hurt. If he had known that things would develop to this point, he might as well stay put in the face of the gossip and enjoy the speed and passion. Moreover, gossip was just gossip. Anyone who could use their brain should know that it was just a misunderstanding. The dignified Taoist master of non-phase had a terrible rough skin and thick flesh, so how could his sensitivity be so low? As for those who were too lazy to even use their brain, Wang Lu didn't need to pay attention to them. In any case, his reputation had never been good. In his early years, after crushing Lu Li with his IQ, he was described by a group of flower protectors as the most despicable and shameless crooked person in the world. And over the years, with one controversial victory after another, the evaluation of him was also polarized. Therefore, Wang Lu really didn't worry that he had no enemies. Even if Zhu Shiyao's misunderstanding spread. At most, he would have to spend some effort to hire professional complainers to sue those who spread the rumor until they lost all their money. Unfortunately, a moment of wavering made him choose a seemingly shortcut, but in fact, it was a road to hell. Just now, in his own room, the girl Murong Bingli Knight Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wu Er and Taoist Master Miao Yen made an agreement to summon the sun and the moon to form a popular idol group in 9 regions and make all the men and women in the world their captives. Taoist Master Miao Yen originally didn't care about the reputation. She only pursued the realization of her own aesthetics. However, after a heart-to-heart talk with Murong Bingli Knight Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wu Er in the room, she was moved by the latter's ideal and became an important member of the team. As long as he thought of the scene where in the near future, all the cultivators in the world would hold a glow stick and shout, "Long live Wu Er," Wang Lu felt that he would definitely become the sinner of 9 regions. A moment of misconception let him open a terrifying door. When he wanted to close the door, he couldn't do it. No, wait a minute, things have not reached the desperate time yet. If one day, the idol group of Murong Bingli, Knight Charm Phoenix, Yen Yuan, Wu Er became unstoppable, then he only needed to exert his influence in the union of 10,000 immortals and ask the relevant departments to issue a notice to ban the banned artists. Alas, but before that, I can only ask the people of the 9 regions to take care of themselves. I'm very busy right now, I don't have the time and energy to dwell on these details. Although this reason was rather suspicious of avoiding reality, the burden on Wang Lu's shoulders was indeed very heavy. As the chief planner of this competition, there were a lot of things that he had to think about and make decisions on. At the same time, he was also one of the main members of the King Pill's combat and literary combat teams. He had participated in more than 50 competitions and had a considerable advantage in most of them. Not only did he have to spend time practicing the competition, but he also had to stand on a higher point of view and command the overall situation. Wang Lu was simply too busy. Fortunately, the person who took up most of his training time was the offensive team's training partner, Murong Bingli, Knight Glamour Phoenix Stunning Oriental, Wu Er. She threw away the iron rice bowl that everyone envied and resolutely chose to pursue her dreams. This caused the offensive team's training to be temporarily paralyzed, giving Wang Lu a few days to catch his breath. Therefore, Wang Lu had the energy to pay attention to some trivial matters in his busy schedule. "Brother Wang Lu, this is the form you want." In the bedroom that Wang Lu had turned into an office, the inner court disciple of 10,000 Arts sect, Xiaofan, handed a form to Wang Lu, which recorded the information that Wang Lu wanted. This noble young master from the royal family has been cultivating for more than 20 years, and his cultivation base was already at the top of the inner court disciples. However, compared to his cultivation base, his meticulous thinking, strict execution, and strong tolerance were even more precious. Therefore, Xiaofan was fortunate enough to join the conference team and became Wang Lu's personal secretary. Regarding this secretary, Wang Lu's evaluation was very positive. Especially when he saw the meticulous preparation of the report in his hand. Even the typesetting and writing were flawless, he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. "Little Hai, apart from your gender, you're simply the perfect secretary candidate." Xiaofan wryly smiled and said, "Brother Wang, your tone now is more and more like my wife's." Wang Lu was immediately stunned. "Are you flirting with me or making a perverted confession?" "I'm sorry for the slip of the tongue. It's just that just now, I couldn't help but express my feelings. When I wrote to you before, I also mentioned that in recent years, because of the bottleneck in her cultivation, Feifei's master wanted her to extensively dabble in knowledge and expand her accumulation. Therefore, she began to indulge in all kinds of novels, especially in the hell of romance. Some time ago, when I tried to break through the bottleneck with her, she suddenly said with emotion that if she were a man, she and I would be a perfect pair. Wang Lu used more than 50% of the power of the king pill to hold back his laughter. However, when he opened his mouth, his voice was still slightly distorted. If necessary, I can help you contact Taoist Master Miaoyan. She seems to be very professional in this area. Hai Yunfan sighed and said, I finally understand what it feels like to be besieged in the wedding letter that Brother Wang wrote to me. Little Hai, this kind of thinking is very dangerous. It's a typical precursor of cheating. So do you want me to introduce you to some mistresses? While teasing her, Wang Lu looked down at the report in his hand. Before long, he sighed. Not long after, he sighed and said, this Luo Xiao is really a talent. He participated in 13 projects, of which 5 of them were weighted above the B level, and he performed well in all of them. He's almost catching up with me. Catching up with you? Your data is at least 3 times his. It's not even on the same level. Moreover, among the King Pill level cultivators, there are more than 1 or 2 people who performed better than Luo Xiao. The chief disciples of the 5 uniques are all above him. So, why do you pay so much attention to him? Wang Lu said, my intuition tells me that this guy is not a good thing. Is that so? But his reputation is pretty good. If you deliberately target him, I'm afraid you'll feel a lot of pressure, Hai Yunfan said, vaguely reminding him. Wang Lu frowned and said, there'll be pressure. Then I have to give it a try. How about this, little Hai, help me draft a document and give him a bit of trouble. For example, strengthening the management of cultivators' clothing and hairstyles, forbidding some obviously offensive clothing, such as wearing black clothes with a bald head that easily reminds people of long, straight black hair. Hai Yunfan smiled and silently cupped his hands to bid farewell. A moment later, he came back with a scroll in his hands. He had finished drafting the notice about strengthening the management of clothing and hairstyles. Wang Lu looked through it and found that little Hai was worthy of being a perfect secretary apart from his gender. He had grasped the leader's intentions very well. In the words of the notice, he used a dignified reason to specially give Luo Xiao a pair of small shoes. Next, let's see who will give me pressure for Luo Xiao. The answer that Wang Lu was looking forward to was soon revealed. No one came to give Wang Lu pressure, because Luo Xiao obediently changed his clothing according to the notice's requirements. He unhesitatingly changed out of the flower stern sect's most precious black kasaya in response to the notice's requirements. Of course, there were indeed quite a few people who could see that Wang Lu's notice was deliberately targeting Luo Xiao. But without exception, they were all persuaded by Luo Xiao. Luo Xiao said, at a critical moment, the overall situation is the most important. So I, the chief planner, am a despicable person who can't see the overall situation? This Luo Xiao is really slick, but this isn't unexpected. Little Hai, what did those old men say? Hai Yunfan said, they didn't say anything. Even if I asked indirectly, the answer I got was ambiguous. TSK, it seems that they still don't completely trust me. Hai Yunfan asked, Brother Wang, do you think that after seeing this notice, they should cooperate with you to make things difficult for Luo Xiao? If they really believe me, then they should know that I have no reason to find trouble with a baldy for no reason. I don't know him at all, and I have no enmity with him. How sick would I be to make things difficult for him? I have a grudge against the beast-taming school, and I can treat them equally. Do you think that I can't tolerate a flower-stern sect? Hai Yunfan said, Brother Wang's words make sense, but not everyone understands your painstaking efforts. Wang Lu sneered twice. His fingers tapped on the table for a while, and he let out a long sigh, throwing this matter to the back of his mind. If they don't understand, then they don't understand. At worst, I'll just be a lonely handsome man. This tournament isn't just about me. If they're willing to believe in Luo Xiao, then let them solve their own problems in the future. I still have a lot of problems to deal with. As Wang Lu spoke, he picked up the latest daily report. Why did the 100 Withers sect withdraw from the competition? They are the main force in the poison event. The name list has already been decided and they are about to start training, but they want to withdraw from the competition. Do they not want to stay in the Wanxian League anymore? Hai Yunfan smiled bitterly and said, Brother Wang, you may not know this, but the 100 Withers Gate withdrew from the competition because their main force was severely injured and on the verge of death. Aren't they experts in poison? Yeah, but this time it went too far. The poison team is full of elites. In order to stand out from the crowd, they over-exaggerated their subjective initiative and completely disregarded the objective rules. They did not hesitate to take risks to develop a new poison. In the end, the poison was not developed, and the main team was sacrificed. Wang Lu slammed the table angrily. How did these idiots get in here? Didn't I repeatedly emphasize the need to conduct an IQ test for the selected members? Those with insufficient IQ can only be ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** be included in the official list. Hai Yunfan said, "That rule has been rejected by the elders. After all, you're just the planner, not the person in charge. TSK, this bunch of fools always hold me back. Now without the 100 Withers sect, where can I find another sect that is good at poison development?" Hai Yunfan had the same feeling. The 100 Withered sect indeed has a unique secret in developing and innovating poisons with local materials. On this point, even our 10,000 Arts sect is ashamed of our inferiority. It's indeed difficult to find a substitute in a short period of time. Those evil sects may have someone who specializes in this, but if we want to communicate with them, we don't know how long it would take. Development and innovation. That's right, the 100 Withers sect's participation in the sub-project doesn't focus on the toxicity and lethality of the poison, but on the innovation of the content and form. That's right, I have an idea. Wang Lu clapped his hands and said to Hai Yunfan, "Little Hai, help me write an invitation to the Misty Peak of Lingjian School." "Yes, that's right, it's my sect. But don't write it in my name, use the name of the organizing committee. Just say that we sincerely invite the famous chef Aya to participate in the development of exotic cuisine." Development of exotic cuisine? Yes, just say that she will try her best to present the flavor of her homeland, and combine it with the characteristics of 9 regions to innovate. Then send all the finished products to the poison team, there will be a surprise. Chapter 602. As the chief planner of the event, Wang Lu's life was busy and fulfilling. Every day, he spent half of his time sweating in the various training grounds of Royal Soldier Sect, and half of his time was buried in his desk. At the same time, he occasionally came forward to coordinate the relationship between all parties, as well as to deal with the trouble caused by the gradually rising popularity idol, Murong Bingli Knight Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wuer. This grand competition with the earthly immortals was like a huge machine. As time went by, everything began to go on the right track and run in an orderly manner. Every day, it had to swallow countless resources. The manpower and material resources that the Wanxian League had invested in this grand competition were even enough to create the Ark of Salvation that Xingjing sect once promoted as a concept that could prop up a pure land in the age of chaos. In just 1 month, the Wanxian League had been fully mobilized by this grand competition, erupting with amazing cohesion and action force. The boundaries between sects continued to fade, and even the relationship between the righteous and the evil path became closer and closer. All of this was attributed to the original plan of Wang Lu. In the plan for the competition against Dixian, Wang Lu tried to emphasize the concept of team. Even if it was a one-on-one event, it had to be a best of 5 to determine the winner and loser. Therefore, in the preparation for the Wuxia League, a large team had to be prepared for any event. Taking into account the main team and other factors, the number of cultivators who actually participated in the event was several times more than 2,000 people. And the number of people who served in this team was tens of thousands. Under the sincere unity, all the estrangement and misunderstandings began to gradually dissipate. In just over a month, the Wuxia League showed an unprecedented scene of peace and prosperity. Therefore, some people even said that even if the result of this grand competition ended in the victory of Dixian, based on this cohesion alone, the Wuxia League would not suffer a loss. However, the people who struggled in the front line of the organizing committee obviously could not set the goal so low. In order to win, they did their best. The elixir of Xingjing sect has arrived. Those of you who can continue to digest the elixir quickly eat it. After that, go to the 100 refinement copper furnace to pressurize and refine the elixir. Let's try to have a few more people reach the peak of King Pill before the competition begins. In a closed training room, a cultivator who looked like an elder was carrying a huge iron box with a face full of exhaustion. The box was filled with colorful porcelain bottles. In front of the elder was a row of King Pill level cultivators sitting on the praying mat. Most of them were high-grade King Pill, and a few of them were middle-grade King Pill. However, without exception, these people's cultivation base was progressing at an alarming rate. Almost every breath made their King Pill more condensed, and their jade mansion more stable. The training room they were in was located in the Kunlun Celestial Mountain, on the side of the primordial earth vein. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth was so dense that it was almost substantial. When it was close to the center of the earth vein, it would even gush out energy with a quality close to that of the immortal qi. It was worthy of being called a holy place for cultivation. Now, this holy land had been opened to the organizing committee by the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. A group of cultivators with excellent qualifications and unique skills, but unfortunately, their realms had not yet reached the consummate stage, were sprinting before the competition. Their goal was to reach the consummate stage of their realm within 2 months. Starting from the King Pill stage, each promotion was a brand new training for cultivators. Most of the people in the world with King Pill level had no hope to break through to the Yuanying stage in their lifetime. The result of hundreds of years of bitter cultivation was only to hone the King Pill more condensed. Even for those with outstanding aptitude, if they wanted to advance to the next stage, it would take several years of hard work. Since the end of the Age of Chaos, those who could complete the King Pill stage to Yuanying stage within 20 years were already considered as extraordinary geniuses. Like Wang Lu, in just a few years, from the low-grade King Pill stage all the way to the peak of King Pill stage, it was simply a miracle that could not be replicated. To break through to the peak of King Pill stage in a short period of time, relying on the power of the ancient feng shui line was not enough. They had to rely on the power of medicinal pills and other external objects. Even so, in this group of 30 people, only half of them could eventually reach the peak of King Pill stage. And among these half who succeeded, the other half had to experience the torment of the side effects. Cultivating to become an immortal was originally a heaven-defying act, and pulling seedlings to help them grow was even more disgraceful. Without a good enough aptitude, one simply could not stand the rapid progress of cultivation base in a short period of time. However, for the big competition in a month or so, at this time, no one could care so much. After 2 months, the Wuxia League gradually became infected with a fanatical mood. Hey, unexpectedly, cultivators from small and medium-sized sects like us can actually enjoy the treatment of the geniuses and elites of high-rank sections. Ancient feng shui line, Xingjing immortal pill, these things that we once dreamed of, are now within our reach. I don't know if I should thank those Dixian people. In the training room, a cultivator who had just digested the Xingjing immortal pill and was still slowly bleeding from his 7 orifices stood up with a smile on his face. He stretched his limbs and issued a series of crackling sounds. That's really cool, long live the Dixian people. Ha ha ha. His loud noise, coupled with his rebellious speech, was immediately exchanged with a lot of disgusted looks from the surrounding people. The cultivator shrugged his shoulders. I know you hate me. I can't help it, you disciples of high-rank sects can't understand the difficulty of us at the bottom. In my sect, for the sake of a bottle of immortal pill, even blood brothers may turn against each other. My junior sister, who was my childhood sweetheart, resolutely threw herself into the arms of others for half a bottle of immortal pill. Alas, in the past, for such a bottle of immortal pill, I was willing to sell my kidney. But now, I can take a whole bottle every day. Moreover, there's also a copper furnace to help me digest it. This is something that I can't even dream about. Listening to the emotional outpouring of this cultivator from a small sect, the geniuses present felt a bit speechless. Their eyes that looked at him also became a bit more gentle. The ancient sages said, if one hears the Tao in the morning, one can die in the evening. My feeling now is that if one takes a mortal pill in the morning, one can die in the evening. But rest assured, I won't die that easily. Although I come from a humble background, at least I know the principle of being loyal to the ruler. The Wuxia League has given me so many benefits. Even if I die without a burial place, I will defeat those Dixian people in the competition. At least, I will never hold you back, ha ha ha. As soon as that person finished speaking, a strange voice came from behind him. Lu Chuan, no one wants you to die without a burial place. On the contrary, you have to live well until the day you reach Yuanying or deity stage. The grand competition is not the end of the world, it's just the beginning of a bigger war. While speaking, a young man in a red and white robe came into the room. He first nodded to the old cultivator at the door, then walked to the medicine box, picked up a porcelain bottle, poured out 2 pills, swallowed them, and then nodded. Fortunately, although the process of refining has been simplified, the potency is still within the acceptable range. Xinjiang sect people are not as unkind as the rumors say. Well, you guys can do your best, I won't bother you anymore. With that, the young man turned around and left. Lu Chuan looked at his back with some surprise. Who is this guy? How could he know me? Is he from the organizing committee? He looks like a supreme. I think he's just at the peak of King Pill, right? The surrounding people sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Chuan, are you out of your mind? You don't even know Wang Lu. Even if you come from a small place, you can't be so ignorant, right? Lu Chuan, on the other hand, was baffled. Do I need to know Wang Lu? He's not a supreme of Unity stage. There are so many King Pill in the Wuxia League, how could I know all of them? I only remember famous people from deity stage and above. The King Pill people present were deeply speechless about the education policy of such a small sect. The old man at the door sighed and said, even if you don't know all the King Pill in the world, you still have to know him. He is now a standing committee member of the organizing committee of the grand competition, the chief planner of the whole event. Do you think it's necessary for you to know him? Lu Chuan was startled. Standing committee member? Didn't they say that one must at least have the cultivation base of peak deity stage? Even if he's the son of Supreme He too, there's no need to make such an exception, right? And what's with the chief planner? There are so many seniors and elders, yet he's the one to plan the event? Alas, his affairs can't be explained in a few words. If you really want to know, recently, someone has been selling his biography. Biography? How old is he, yet he has already started to publish a book? It's very popular. I don't know who the author is, but he wrote the details of Wang Lu's daily life in detail. Even if you know that it's probably made up by the author, it's still fascinating. A few days ago, I saw that even the Supreme of Unity stage in Kunlun Immortal Mountain was reading that book. Lu Chuan was dumbfounded. Is it that amazing? If you don't believe it, you can go to the mysterious Sky Mansion to buy it. The title of the book is The Legendary Adventure of Curing the World. The author is I Love Big Brother. I understand, alas, wherever I go, I'm surrounded by people like a rare animal. Is this the trouble of being an idol? After inspecting the situation of the training room, Wang Lu returned to Royal Soldier Sect through the transmission array set up between the 5 uniques. Along the way, he complained to his secretary, Hai Yunfan, about the recent situation. I think you might as well learn from Murong Bingli Knight Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wuer and enjoy the pleasure of being an idol. Don't mention that guy, I have a stomachache. Hai Yunfan pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose. The stomachache is probably because you just ate some exotic food. Speaking of which, I really admire you more and more. How did you eat that? Supreme looks up at the starry sky. How else can I eat it? Being looked at by Aya with that kind of expectant look, can you vomit? Alas, this is really a trap of one's own making. By the way, help me inform the poison team that the new poison is quite strong. The King Pill level non-phase sword bone can't hold it anymore. I've recorded your painful expression at that moment and sent it to them. They were very happy. Good job, little Hai, you're indeed my secretary. While talking, the two of them passed through the transmission array and returned to Royal Soldier Sect, the training ground of Wang Lu, which was also his office. However, as soon as they landed, Hai Yunfan raised his head in surprise. It seems that a guest has come to visit. Wang Lu also raised his head and then looked at the old figure with great surprise. Uncle Sect Leader? Why are you here? Chapter 603. This was the first time that Wang Lu saw Feng Yin Daoist master since his self-awakening dream. It had been a lot since the last time they met. After the end of the journey, Wang Lu returned to 9 regions. By chance, he met Lu Li by chance and was expected to go to the group of immortal tombs together. Then, because of the sword demon mark on his body, he was fancied by Dixian Xian Mo and pulled into her immortal dreamland. After that, he experienced the adventure of asking the heaven, which opened the prelude to the grand competition. During this period, although the Wanxian League held many meetings, and Wang Lu and Feng Yin were both important members, for various reasons, they could not meet directly. The communication between the two was through letters. When he saw Feng Yin Daoist master again, Wang Lu was in a trance, as if he had returned to 150 years ago. At that time, the current Feng Yin Daoist master was just a clumsy young kid. Because of his strong sense of responsibility and tenacity, he was fancied by Wang Lu as a pillar of the golden generation. Now, the kid had grown into a hateful old ghost, and the tender sprout had truly become a towering tree that sheltered the Lingjian school. It was not difficult to imagine how much Feng Yin himself had paid for it. He had inherited the legacy of many golden generation, and his aptitude and perception were the best in the world. However, in more than 100 years, he was promoted from King Pill to peak deity stage. Moreover, he was comparable to a supreme. This was by no means a normal path for him. This could also be seen from his old face and figure. From King Pill, the lifespan of a cultivator was more than 500 years, and after reaching deity stage, the lifespan could be more than 1,500 years. According to this standard, Feng Yin was actually very young and should not look so old. Obviously, this was one of the prices he had paid for 150 years. Thinking of this, Wang Lu's complex feelings were indescribable. The two identities of Ouyang Shang and Wang Lu continued to intertwine and flash. Then, Brother Wang, it just so happens that I have some matters to attend to, so I'll excuse myself first. Seeing that Wang Lu was a little absent-minded, and considering that Feng Yin Daoist master had come here in a low-key manner, he probably had some internal affairs of the sect to discuss with him. Hai Yunfan cleverly chose to leave in time. As soon as Hai Yunfan left, Wang Lu regained his senses and put on a warm smile. Sect Master Martial Uncle, please come in and wait for me to serve you some tea. As he spoke, he took a few steps forward, pushed open the door of his house, and welcomed Feng Yin in. Soon, he made Feng Yin the superior spirit tea that was sent by several middle-rank sect leaders. Feng Yin took the tea, took a sip, and exclaimed, "This is really good tea. It's a gift from the owner of the fragrant tea tower. Looks like they weren't bragging. They really did send something good." Feng Yin put down the teacup and said with a smile, "Not bad, even the owner of the fragrant tea tower wants to send you a gift." Wang Lu said, "I can't ask for help empty-handed. The fragrant tea tower intends to monopolize the supply of tea for the grand competition and sent tea to all the high-level members of the organizing committee. It's a pity that you refused the invitation of the organizing committee, otherwise, you would have gotten more tea than me." Feng Yin said, "Recently, your story has been spread everywhere in the Wanxian League." Wang Lu asked, "That legendary adventure of curing the world sold so well?" "TSK, that guy Wang Wu earned a good sum of money." As he spoke, Wang Lu didn't waste time and directly began to deal with the official documents. In any case, Feng Yin Daoist master didn't care about these red tape, but he was really busy. However, Wang Lu originally intended to deal with the official documents while chatting with Feng Yin. However, when he was immersed in the documents, the room remained silent for a long time. Feng Yin Daoist master actually didn't say a word. It was not until Wang Lu had dealt with a heavy document in his hand, signed his opinion on the front page, and subconsciously prepared to ask Hai Yunfan to help him publish it that he found that his uncle's sect leader was quietly watching him at the table. He had been waiting for him for a long time. What's the matter with uncle's sect leader this time?" Unexpectedly, Feng Yin didn't say a word and just quietly watched him. However, what was more frightening was that the focus of his eyes was obviously behind him. "Uncle's sect leader, do you need a new pair of glasses?" Wang Lu simply moved 10 feet to the side, but he found that sect leader Feng Yin was still motionless. If it weren't for his light and long breathing, he would be like a dead person. Could it be that he's possessed by the devil while practicing? It's better to call my master over and steal his golden seal while he's still stiff. Whether it succeeds or not, I can still watch a good show. As a result, when Wang Lu was about to contact his master, he saw that Feng Yin had already woken up and sighed. "It's really similar." "Really similar?" Feng Yin looked at Wang Lu meaningfully and said, "The current you reminds me more and more of a friend who has passed away for many years." Wang Lu asked with a smile, "First, is it a man or a woman?" "Of course it's a man. The best man in 9 regions." Feng Yin said, "Originally, my position should belong to him." Upon hearing this, Wang Lu put down the document and writing brush in his hand, because Feng Yin Daoist master had made it very clear that he was talking about Ouyang Shang. It was very strange. About Ouyang Shang, except for Wang Wu, Wang Lu had never told anyone else, and he believed that Wang Wu would not easily reveal this secret, so how did Feng Yin Daoist master know about it? Was it because, as he gradually separated from his disciple status and walked to the front of the stage? Would the change in temperament really make people involuntarily think of Ouyang Shang? Most likely not. In terms of temperament and character, the difference between Wang Lu and Ouyang Shang was quite big. Otherwise, no one in Spirit Sword Mountain could see that he was the reincarnation of Ouyang Shang for so many years. Or could it be that his pair of stellar divine eyes had improved and could already see through all the secrets in the world? That should not be the case. After all, Feng Yin's stellar eyes was a acquired magical ability, which was the highest realm of insight into all things. He basically had no hope in his life. Cultivating the stellar divine eyes was just to pave the way for Zhu Shiyao. After thinking about it, Wang Lu could not figure out how Feng Yin Daoist master saw through his identity. However, this problem was not important. What was important was what Feng Yin was going to do after knowing the truth. Over the years, I have been thinking about what would happen if it was not me, but that person who was in charge of Lingjian school. Every time I think about it, I can't help but feel ashamed." Hearing this, Wang Lu's heart was heavy. He wanted to speak out, but found that Feng Yin Daoist master's eyes had become a bit blank, so he suddenly understood. What he needed was not someone's explanation, but a quiet listener. In the official history, at the last moment, Ouyang Shang perished together with Dixian, and his soul flew to the sky. Leaving behind the remnants of the Golden Generation, they returned to the sect to rebuild the sect. However, on the Spirit Sword Mountain, how could a group of King Pill stage disciples support the brand of the 5 uniques of the Wanxian League? Everyone in Heavenly Sword Hall had paid a great deal of effort and sacrifice for this. Among the elders of Heavenly Sword Hall, the top 3 were already white-haired and looked haggard. However, Lu Xian, Fang He, and the others at least had Feng Yin, their big brother, to shelter them from the wind and rain. Feng Yin, on the other hand, had to shoulder all the difficulties alone. Thinking about it this way, it was not difficult to understand the depression in the heart of the leader of Lingjian school. Thus, while dealing with the official documents again, Wang Lu quietly listened to the nagging of Feng Yin Daoist master. It was just that, from the beginning to the end, he didn't say a word. The purpose of Feng Yin's trip, Wang Lu could more or less guess it. For Feng Yin, if the big brother, whom he worshipped like a god, was still alive, he had no reason to continue to steal the position of sect leader, and naturally, he should abdicate. However, for Wang Lu, this decision of Feng Yin, whether it was a whim or a deliberate decision, was absolutely unacceptable. The reason was very simple. Because, according to the standard of the sect leader, he was far less suitable than Feng Yin. It was true that in some management methods and intelligence, Wang Lu was more astute and flexible than Feng Yin. However, the supreme leader of a sect did not need brilliant means, but connections and prestige. Today's Lingjian school was no longer the sect that struggled to be reborn from the ruins 150 years ago. The elders of Heavenly Sword Hall were already the tyrants of the 9 regions. In the past 150 years, the sect had made friends all over the world, established cooperation with many top-rank sects, and became a truly indispensable pole in the Wanxian League. And these cooperating sects recognized the name of the sect leader, Feng Yin, not Ouyang Shang, who should have died 150 years ago, and not the young King Pill who had just emerged. Wang Lu rashly took over the position of sect leader, which would only make the Lingjian school a laughing stock in the eyes of countless people, and the accumulation of 150 years would go down the drain. Moreover, right now, Wang Lu did not have so much energy to take charge of a sect. His goal was never the golden seal of the sect leader of Lingjian school. After crossing the world, he had a more important goal. Lingjian school had Feng Yin, Heavenly Sword Hall, Lu Li, and Zhu Shiyao, these rare geniuses. Its rising momentum had long been unstoppable, so whether there was Wang Lu or not, there was no essential difference. However, there were some things that only Wang Lu could do. After no one knew how much time had passed, Wang Lu had finished dealing with the documents on the table. Therefore, he said to Feng Yin, "Uncle sect leader, although I haven't been cultivating for a long time, my knowledge can be regarded as extensive. In my opinion, there is no one in Lingjian school who is more suitable than you to be the sect leader. Uncle sect leader, please don't belittle yourself, and don't erase the hard work of you and the people around you in the past 150 years. At the same time, I also ask Uncle sect leader to be prepared to continue to struggle. It's still far from the time when you can unload the burden. You have supported Lingjian school from the edge of collapse to today, so you should know that any imaginary savior is not as realistic as having your feet on the ground. If you really think that there is a person in this world who can do better than you, then strive to be as good as that person." Being persuaded by Wang Lu in such an old-fashioned tone, Feng Yin was not annoyed, but just chuckled softly. "You're right. I'm already so old, but I'm like a child who has some unrealistic dreams. Well, since even you, the lead disciple, said so, I will continue to struggle for the position of sect leader for a few more years. I just hope that when everything is over, that person won't blame me. Chapter 604. Sect Master Martial Uncle, is there something important that you came all the way here to find me for? After unraveling the knot in Feng Yin's heart, the atmosphere in the room relaxed a lot. Wang Lu served another cup of tea to Feng Yin Daoist master and asked him about his purpose. Feng Yin took the teacup and enjoyed the superior tea of the fragrant tea house. He then said softly, there are indeed two things. One is that I need you to make some changes to the current list of participants and add a few people. What? Feng Yin said, Hua Yun has refined her yuanying 10,000 times, and now it has 9 colors. In the yuanying group, she can also serve as the main force in many events. In addition, Lu Li has also unexpectedly advanced. Now she is a high-level king pill, which can have a place in your attack group. Upon hearing this, Wang Lu could not help but be stunned. Aunt Hua Yun has been refining her yuanying for many years, trying to promote her 7-colored yuanying to 9-colored, so it's reasonable for her to finish the work ahead of time. But what about Lu Li? I remember that fourth uncle doesn't intend to help her improve her skill quickly just because of this grand competition. Feng Yin Daoist master said, there is no external force to induce it. It's purely because she suddenly had an epiphany in her cultivation, and then her cultivation base advanced by leaps and bounds. Epiphany? Lu Li? Wang Lu was dumbfounded. On the path of immortal cultivation, it was not new for one's cultivation base to soar because of an epiphany. However, the conditions for achieving an epiphany were actually very harsh, which could be regarded as an opportunity that could not be sought. Wang Lu had never had an experience that could be called an epiphany in his many years of cultivation. Not only Lu Li, but also Yao, Er. After her fight with you a few days ago, she also had an epiphany. Right now, she is cultivating in seclusion on Spirit Sword Mountain. I'm afraid that after this seclusion, she will also usher in a transformation. In addition, recently, the elite disciples of the major sects have had an epiphany or other kind of adventure. They either stumbled upon an ancient ruin, picked up a heavenly treasure, or inexplicably broke through a bottleneck that had troubled them for many years. Wang Lu's brows gradually furrowed. Something abnormal must be a demon. What do you think, sect leader Shibua? Is there a mastermind behind all of this or some sort of conspiracy? For example, Dixian is using genetically modified products to exterminate the cultivators of 9 regions. Feng Yin said, I tried to use the star diffraction technique to deduce many times, but I couldn't find any mastermind behind the scenes. I could only see that these people's luck was extremely exuberant, like the proud sons of heaven. Exuberant providence, favored by the heavens? When Wang Lu heard this, his face gradually darkened. Sure enough, everything in the world had a reason. It was fine if 1 or 2 people had a fortuitous encounter, but now, this fortuitous encounter was like a wholesale group purchase. It seemed that 9 regions could no longer bear the loneliness. Having the blessing of the 9 regions was undoubtedly a good thing. The world was vast, and no matter how strong a cultivator was, it still seemed insignificant. With the blessing of the great 9 regions, naturally, everything would go smoothly. However, after experiencing the pain of 150 years ago, Wang Lu knew that the providence of 9 regions was not always reliable, and it might even become a weapon in the hands of the enemy. The fallen immortals could manipulate the providence of 9 regions, and those who succeeded because of the providence would eventually fail because of the providence. At that time, more than 100 people of the golden generation were like clay chickens and pottery dogs in front of a seriously injured and dying Mr. Feng Yu. This drag of providence was undoubtedly an important incentive. It could even be said that part of the reason why his soul traveled through the world was for the sake of the word providence. A body that was not contaminated by the providence of 9 regions was likely to be the key to the decisive battle in the future. As his thoughts drifted away, it took some time for Wang Lu to gather his thoughts and said to Feng Yin, "It's not difficult to adjust the list. In any case, with the deepening of the training, there will be several major changes in the list. Those who can't adapt to the training will be kicked out, and those who perform well in the reserve team will come in as substitutes. It's not a problem for me to add a few people." "Then, uncle, what's the second thing you said?" When it came to the second thing, Feng Yin took a long breath and then put on a very solemn posture. "As for the second thing." As he said that, his voice suddenly became very soft. "Recently, because the current chef of the Misty Peak cafeteria is on a business trip, they temporarily invited a chef from the Heavenly Fragrance Kitchen. The chef's cooking is very well received. The inner court disciples have said that the former chef doesn't need to come back, and even junior brother Lu Xian expressed his agreement. I think you have a close relationship with her, so it's better for you to say it." After listening, Wang Lu looked at Feng Yin incredulously and said, "Sect leader, please use your brain when you speak. You know that I have a close relationship with Aya, yet you want me to personally say such hurtful words. Do you think that her psychological trauma is not deep enough?" Feng Yin said, "About this, I'm worried that if other people say it, they would be killed by her. When she returned to the Western continent with you, when she came back, her strength was not inferior to that of Dixian. Only a few people in Spirit Sword Mountain could withstand her sword. Then don't do this kind of suicidal thing. The dignified Night King of Bretonia, a supreme-level powerhouse, is your chef. What else is there to be dissatisfied with? Don't you know that with her strength, even her excrement is an immortal elixir for mortal creatures? Moreover, you know that you can't stop her Excalibur, but you still want to provoke her?" Feng Yin said with a wry smile, "Because we can't stop her Western continent delicacies. It's fine if she cooks some 9 regions' local dishes according to the recipe, but she insists on optimizing the traditional Bretonia delicacies. It's simply. Plus, recently, she has repeatedly achieved good results in the poison group." When the good news spread back to Spirit Sword Mountain, the inner court disciples of the Misty Peak panicked. Some people even considered leaving the inner court and running to the Carefree Peak to be an outer court disciple. "This time, you tricked her into coming here in the name of gourmet development, right? During this period, you've been lying to her that everyone's response is very good, right? Then, have you ever thought about what will happen when she returns to Spirit Sword Mountain with this victory?" Wang Lu looked up, and in his mind, Aya's smug face could not help but emerge. "After a long period of training, I have mastered the essence of gourmet food. This time, I will put a table of more than 500 dishes in the Bretonia banquet for everyone. Please enjoy it." Then, the Lingjian school that Feng Yin and the others had spent 150 years to rebuild would be destroyed in a day. Feng Yin Taoist master earnestly said, "Therefore, Wang Lu, as the lead disciple, you must bravely shoulder your responsibility. I ask you, as the sect leader, to take the responsibility first. Alas, you young people are like the sun in the morning, that's why I have a great future, I don't want to die." Initially, the employment contract was stamped with the sect seal, which was signed by you, the sect leader. If you want to violate the contract, you have to do it yourself. Feng Yin was silent for a moment. "Very well, I'll go talk to her. By the way, I'll also tell her that you, in the name of gourmet development, invited her to develop poison." Wang Lu was shocked, thinking, "Uncle sect leader, can you be a little bit shameless? For the sect, I can sacrifice all personal honor and disgrace." Wang Lu had to take a deep breath. "Then I have to come up with a plan. You let Uncle Lu Xian build a new cafeteria in the Misty Peak, make it more beautiful, and then inform Aya to work in the new cafeteria. You can say that she has been working hard for many years and has been promoted, and now she has become the advanced profession of chef king. What if no one goes to eat? You can say that the new cafeteria is the responsibility of the chef king, and it has a very high standard. Ordinary people are not allowed to enter, only the inner court elites are eligible to go there. Then, you can ask Lu Xian to catch a few people who are not serious in their daily practice as sacrifices every few days. Feng Yin thought for a moment and slowly nodded. Very well, I'll do as you say. After ending the conversation with sect leader Feng Yin, Wang Lu felt relaxed in the room. Aya's matter was secondary. What really concerned Wang Lu was that from now on, he no longer needed to think about how to face his junior brothers and sisters, who were also the current sect elders. After talking with Feng Yin, both sides had reached a tacit understanding. Let the dead die completely. What the world needed was a new Wang Lu, not a resurrected Ouyang Shang. Only by letting go of the past could he move forward. After thinking about this, Wang Lu stretched his waist, and the 206 sword bones made a crisp sound at the same time, bursting out the accumulated fatigue. Then, he continued to bend down in front of the table and began to draft a new manuscript. Whether it was the providence of 9 regions or the future of Lingjian school, they were all long-term strategies. And the most important thing at the moment was this grand competition. After nearly a month of training, the 2,000-person team that the Wanxian League had placed high hopes on had made amazing progress. The 2 levels of King Pill and Yuanying were particularly obvious. But now it seemed that it was still not enough. Previously, Wang Lu had witnessed the King Pill level fight between Dixian Baizhe and his master. Wang Wu won that fight beautifully. However, in the entire 9 regions, Wang Wu's King Pill was unique. What's more, in order to give full play to the advantage of 9 regions, the plan of this grand competition was based on group fight. Even the King Pill level fight had to be the best of 5. However, Wang Wu alone was far from enough. Fortunately, there was still a month before the start of the competition. Moreover, after the start of the competition, the main event would be the literary event, so there was still some buffer time. As for how to make good use of this time and increase the odds of winning for the 2,000-person team as much as possible, it was his job as the chief planner. According to the previous month's report, the training strategy should be adjusted in time, and the trainers and team members of each project group should be optimized. The resources of the Wanxian League should be allocated carefully according to the weighted score of the competition and the hope of winning of the participating team. In theory, these tasks should need the support of a whole team of advisors in order to be arranged accurately. However, Wang Lu knew that there was no time to organize any team of advisors. Moreover, there were not many people in 9 regions who could keep up with his thinking, therefore, all the heavy burden was put on Wang Lu alone. The plan was drafted by him and could be implemented after it was submitted to the head of the organizing committee for approval. Before that, Supreme He too, as the director, had never rejected any of Wang Lu's plans. Wang Lu wrote vigorously at the table until late at night. Finally, he raised his head and sighed wearily. Next, the training of peace and friendship will end here. Everyone, get ready to taste the taste of hell. Chapter 605. Cross-level confrontation in groups? When he received Wang Lu's proposal, Hichu Daoran, as the person in charge of the organizing committee, was quite surprised. According to Wang Lu's plan, in the next month, the participating cultivators of each project group would have a cross-level confrontation. The 4 levels of King Pill, Yuanying, Deity, and Supreme would fight against each other and seriously decide the outcome. Can you explain it in more detail? Wang Lu said, it's like this. For us, the cultivators of 9 regions, this grand competition is essentially to pull the enemy to the same level as ourselves and try to fight the strong with the weak. However, the advantage of high-level cultivators in terms of vision, power utilization, and other aspects is not something that we can make up for with experience. What's more, most of those Dixian cultivators have gone up step by step from body refining and chi cultivating, so their experience is not weaker than ours. Therefore, if we want to win, we have to work hard in two aspects. One is to make full use of the rules, and the other is to do specific strengthening, how to face and win against opponents who are stronger than ourselves in the limited stage. Hichu Daoran said, so you designed this cross-level confrontation to let the cultivators experience different levels of fighting? But our Supreme Group seems to. Wang Lu said, yes, the Supreme Group can't find an opponent who is stronger than themselves. The confrontation with the other three groups is purely a sparring session, a waste of time. But in fact, in my plan, the supreme level is not the focus of the points at all. I don't know if you have calculated the points distribution of all the projects in my plan. The three levels of King Pill, Yuanying, and Unity account for more than 70% of the total points. If we can hold this part of the points in our hands, the overall situation can be expected. Hichu Daoran pondered for a moment and then asked, what's the matter with this punishment? Wang Lu explained with great interest, this is actually the essence of my supplementary plan. Think about it, according to human nature, when the low-level group loses to the high-level group, most of them will feel that the loss is a matter of course, while the win is inconceivable. During training, they can't tap their full potential. Therefore, it was necessary to add additional punishment measures. For the low-level group, if they couldn't defeat an opponent that was only at the level of a supreme, then wouldn't they lose without a doubt when fighting an earthly immortal? Thus, in order to stimulate their potential, punishment measures were necessary. For the high-ranking group, if they lost to the low-ranking group due to a moment of carelessness, it would be even more unforgivable. The punishment should be tripled. However, if we impose corporal punishment and cause harm to the cultivators, we won't have enough time for them to recuperate. If it affects their performance in the competition, the gains won't make up for the losses. To sum up, we came up with the current punishment plan. Hichu Daoran said, but if the committee were to implement such a plan, the pressure they would face would probably be, you don't have to worry about that. When the time comes, there will only be more people who will be happy to see it happen. It's just that no one will say it out loud. Hehe, that's true. Hichu Daoran chuckled, then picked up a jade pen and signed his name on Wang Lu's proposal. Let's go with your plan. Even Wang Lu was a bit surprised to get the approval so readily. This time, he directly submitted the plan to Hichu. He didn't expect him to pass it at once. There was still room for discussion in some of the details. Unexpectedly, Hichu trusted him so much. He seemed to be more cordial than his own elder. Thank you for your support, Supreme. I will not let you down. After Wang Lu left, a person slowly walked out from behind Hichu Daoran. Sect leader, aren't you too indulgent to Wang Lu? He is indeed talented and often has fantastic ideas. However, the grand competition is related to the overall situation of 9 regions, so it should be treated with caution. Even if we don't consider the interests of the sect, purely from the perspective of public interest, we should carefully consider it before making a decision. Hichu Daoran said, what about after consideration? Are you sure that your suggestion is better than his? No matter how powerful Wang Lu is, there are always places where he can't think it through. Hichu said, how long will it take for you to find out the shortcomings, improve it, and convince Wang Lu and everyone else to accept your revision? I understand, but, Hichu said, I don't fully trust Wang Lu, but there's no need to question him for no reason. This grand competition is a gamble, so there's no time to deliberate on all the details. Then, it means that this grand competition will become his performance stage. You're wrong. No matter what kind of achievements Wang Lu has made, I am the person in charge of the organizing committee of the grand competition. Knowing people and appointing them well is the highest wisdom of a person in charge. Moreover, the protagonist of this grand competition is destined to be all the people in the Wuxia League. Wang Lu is just the protagonist. In addition, don't you think it's necessary to put more pressure on Xiaofan? Xiaofan, no matter what people from other sects say now, I always think that the best cultivator in 9 regions in the past 100 years is Xiaofan. One day, she will take over my position and become the new leader of the Wuxia League. She must also do this. Yes. At the same time, after getting the approval of Hichu, Wang Lu also began to officially implement his plan. In plentiful city of Southern Heaven region, Wang Lu held an emergency meeting and conveyed the instructions of Supreme Hichu to the person in charge of each division of the grand competition. After seeing Wang Lu's plan, naturally, many people frowned. Among them, a Taoist master of deity stage who was in charge of the training in the eastern border region asked, "Wang Lu, we can understand your idea of cross-level confrontation, but isn't this punishment too childish?" Wang Lu said, "If time permits, I also want to design a set of not childish plan that is enough to make the cultivators physically and mentally disabled, so that every defeat is unforgettable, and then go all out to deal with the grand competition. But unfortunately, we don't have that time, so we can only take an unconventional sword. But this sword is too unconventional. Those who lose in the competition are forced to participate in the beauty contest of the opposite sex. What kind of punishment is this?" Wang Lu lightly said, "You can use your imagination." The elder who asked the question froze for a moment. He thought that if he were to compete with Taoist Master Miao Yan, that would really be, boom. His condensed primordial spirit shook violently as if it was about to collapse. That scene was simply frightening. It's indeed a very shocking plan, but the majority of cultivators may not be able to accept it. Wang Lu said, "Yes, I have fully estimated the average IQ of today's Wuxia League. Therefore, it is necessary for the people in charge of each division to implement the plan in the shortest possible time. Of course, I will take the lead and set an example. Starting from the Jindan level group that I am currently in, I will challenge the Nascent Soul group, the Deity Transformation group, and the Monarch group in turn. I will also be the leader of each challenge. If I am unfortunately defeated, the punishment will be doubled. In this way, I believe the voice of opposition will be much smaller. You want to take the lead in challenging the senior group? That's very sincere." The elder who had previously used his imagination nodded. His mind could not help but think that if Wang Lu was defeated and participated in the beauty contest of the opposite sex and was forced to dress up by Miao Yan, that scene seems pretty good? Wait a minute, why do I think it's good for a young man to change into a woman's dress? Just as this elder was dumbfounded and began to reflect on his own 3 views, someone else in the meeting room raised an opinion. "If you are really willing to abandon your dignity and face, it's not impossible for us to cooperate with you to implement the plan. Alas, in the end, this grand competition is a matter of life and death, so it's really not the time to care about reputation. However, as a young man who has just entered the King Pill group, it's not necessary for you to challenge the 3 groups of Yuanying, Deity, and Supreme. I think it's enough for you to compete with the Yuanying group once. If you lose too many times, it would make your sacrifice seem like child's play. What's more, as the chief planner of this competition, it's necessary for you to have a certain amount of prestige." Upon hearing this, Wang Lu was stunned. I don't intend to lose." "What?" The elder who suggested this was somewhat inconceivable. "Are you really going to win?" Among all the King Pill cultivators in 9 regions, Wang Lu could almost be ranked in the top 5 in terms of comprehensive fighting power, except for his master, the number 1 King Pill in 9 regions. Even those who had been at the peak of King Pill for hundreds of years, had many evildoer means, and cross-stage challenges were commonplace, they had no certainty of winning against Wang Lu. However, cross-stage battles were different. King Pill fought against Yuanying or Deity. Moreover, they were the best among those in the same stage, so there was really no chance of winning. Although there were few such battles before, at least among the cultivators present, no one thought that they would lose to a King Pill, even if they suppressed their own stage to the level of King Pill. As you said, I am the chief planner of this competition. If I lose face in front of everyone, there will inevitably be resistance in the implementation of many plans. Therefore, I certainly have to win the next battle. Whether it's against Yuanying, deity, or supreme, I have to win. Seeing how resolute and decisive Wang Lu was, the others had nothing to say. Then you're on your own now. The elders had already said what they needed to say. Since Wang Lu was obstinate in seeking his own death, they could only let him be. Next, they just needed to sit back and watch the show. There was no doubt that it would be a good show. Speaking of which, according to the plan that Wang Lu just said, his first battle is to lead the King Pill group against the Yuanying group, right? Outside the venue, the two elders talked with their primordial spirit. Yes, in the Yuanying group, half of them are monsters from their Lingjian school. I was just thinking, I don't know if Wang Lu, this guy, can confidently say that he will win against our sect's elder. Chapter 606. Wang Lu, although our Lingjian school does trust you very much, it is precisely because of this that you should think twice before doing anything. In the face of the sea of people in the training field, the fourth elder of the Spirit Sword sect, Zhou Ming, showed a bitter look. He deeply hated those few martial brothers and sisters of the same sect who said that they could not come because of an unexpected illness. Regardless of their friendship, they sold him out. At the same time, he also hated himself for being careless and not paying attention to the latest notice, so he indifferently came to participate in the cross-level simulation. Then, he met his precious disciple nephew, and his face immediately darkened. No matter who wins or loses this battle, it will become a stain on Lingjian school. When you designed the plan, didn't you consider the tragedy of fellow disciples killing each other? Wang Lu replied with a heavy expression, I just didn't consider that I would lose. I didn't expect that on the first day, I would cheat my own elder. Alas, you must learn your lesson in the future. As soon as Zhou Ming finished speaking, he felt that something was wrong. Wait a minute, do you think you can win against me? Wang Lu explained, disciple doesn't dare. At the same time, a respectful and kind smile appeared on his face. And just when Zhou Ming nodded inwardly, thinking that this kid finally knew how to respect his teacher. But disciple also doesn't dare to lie to the elder, so I can only smile without saying a word. Uncle, please understand the true meaning of this. *CK, what's the difference between this and saying it directly? I'm really old and muddle-headed to have expectations for the integrity of your non-phase peak people. Well, all these years, we thought that we should let nature take its course for a genius like you. Indeed, we didn't take enough care of you. I didn't expect you to be so inflated that you don't even know the immensity of heaven and earth. While speaking, Zhou Ming took out two spirit swords, one ice and one fire, blue and red lingering around him. This was a top-grade spiritual treasure that had accompanied Zhou Ming for nearly 100 years. When the two swords combined, it was comparable to an immortal treasure. The two sword spirits were half virtual and half real, floating around the sword body. One was bright and beautiful like a painting, the other was cold and elegant. Both of them were beautiful girls with outstanding qualities. Wang Lu was shocked when he saw this. Fourth martial uncle, I didn't expect you to be such a person. Zhou Ming glared angrily. What do you take the sword spirit for? Moreover, isn't your sword spirit also a woman? You still have the cheek to criticize me? Wang Lu blinked his eyes and said, I'm from non-phase peak. Have you given up on yourself? The more Zhou Ming spoke, the more irritated he became. He had always disapproved of this fight between fellow disciples, and Wang Lu looked so repulsive that he couldn't bear it any longer. Thereupon, Zhou Ming gently took a breath, and his immortal heart in his jade mansion slightly moved. Suddenly, his figure, like a sword spirit, became half real and half illusory. Brilliant sword heart. Wang Lu's eyes narrowed. He knew that his fourth martial uncle had made his move, so he must be cautious. After being together with Lu Li for decades, he couldn't be more familiar with brilliant sword heart. A pure sword heart could be exchanged for the incomparable purity of the sword in his hand. The sword's main purpose was to kill, an ominous weapon. Under the blessing of brilliant sword heart, the sharpness and nimbleness of the sword would be brought into play to the extreme. Nothing could stop the flying sword. Lu Li was born with a colored glass heart, clear and transparent, untainted by the world of mortals. Her brilliant sword heart's accomplishment was also extremely high. Her cultivation progress had repeatedly made Zhou Ming exclaim in admiration, even to the point of being ashamed of his inferiority. Were it not for the fact that Lu Li's Skybreaker had lost its spirit and its power was greatly reduced, based on the power of her brilliant sword heart and Skybreaker, the most powerful King Pill level attack would never be the combination of Qiong Hua and Kill Immortal Sword. And now, such Lu Li was no longer a threat to Wang Lu. However, an elder was, after all, an elder, a survivor who inherited the legacy of the Golden Generation. Once he got serious, his strength and that of his disciples were on a completely different level. Just this brilliant sword heart alone, in Zhou Ming's hand, it was clearly several stages higher than Lu Li's. This half-real and half-illusory body had clearly transformed the body into sword intent, becoming a half-real and half-conceptual existence. Not only did it retain the high attack power of brilliant sword heart, but it also made up for the shortcomings of its defensive power. This was a realm that countless sword cultivators could only dream of. Zhou Ming's transformation also caused an uproar in the audience. Although it had long been known that the group of Yuanying stage disciples in the Heavenly Sword Hall of Lingjian School were all monsters, and any one of them had the strength to easily challenge those with higher stage than them, but this method of transforming the body into sword intent was still beyond the imagination of many people. Previously, when he fought with the cultivators in the same group, I've never seen him use this move. Could it be that he has been hiding his strength? Even if he hides his strength, he is still rated as one of the strongest Yuanying stage in 9 regions. How did these people in the Lingjian school cultivate? However, previously when he fought against the Yuanying stage opponents, he didn't use this move. Instead, he went all out against his own disciple. The rumor that everyone in the non-phase peak of Lingjian school wants to beat him seems to be true. In short, it seems like Wang Lu is going to lose. He's really reaping what he sowed by designing a punishment measure. This time, it's his turn to taste the taste of cross-dressing beauty contest. Hey, fellow Daoist, why are you blushing? At the same time, on the training field, Wang Lu also frowned. It's indeed a bit tricky, but, if it was Zhou Ming, a peak Yuanying stage cultivator, Wang Lu wouldn't even be able to take one sword strike from him. However, this was, after all, a King Pill level fight, so it was impossible for Zhou Ming to show all his skills. Transforming his body into sword intent was an almost impossible task for someone in the King Pill level. At this time, he was trying his best to do it, but he certainly couldn't last long. Moreover, the power of the sword wasn't completely unstoppable. Therefore, this was a battle where perseverance was the key to victory. As long as he could withstand the storm of Fourth Uncle's opening, he could see the dawn of victory. Wang Lu took a deep breath, held the rouge tears in his hand, and pointed the sword downward. "Uncle, please advise me." Before his voice fell, a white figure appeared behind Zhou Ming. Autumn Beam appeared like a ghost. Her right hand pinched the 4 sword shuttles condensed from primordial chaos sword chi and threw them out. This sneak attack was extremely sudden. Wang Lu didn't show the slightest change in his expression, but when he attacked, it was as powerful as a thunderbolt. Even the nascent soul and soul formation cultivators in the field didn't expect it. They all thought that Wang Lu, who specialized in defense, would use all his strength to defend against an opponent like Zhou Ming. No one expected him to do the opposite and boldly choose to attack Zhou Ming. Each of the 4 primordial chaos sword shuttles was condensed with Wang Lu's full strength. Only a sword spirit like Autumn Beam could preserve it in advance and hold it in her hand. And when the 4 swords attacked at the same time, no one in the King Pill level could take it lightly. After transforming his body into sword intent, Zhou Ming couldn't block it with his body. Moreover, Wang Lu's attack was so fast that he couldn't react in time due to the limitations of his realm. But the 2 sword spirits beside him acted as if they had foreseen it. The ice sword spirit spat out a faint orchid, and the ice sword turned into a blue icy wind that whistled forward, freezing the 4 primordial chaos sword shuttles in the air. At the same time, the fire sword spirit struck out a blazing fire fist with his right hand, shattering and burning the condensed sword shuttles. The 2 sword spirits, one in front and one behind, blocked the joint sneak attack of Wang Lu and Autumn Beam. But Wang Lu seemed to have expected it. While the 2 swords were focused on the sneak attack from behind, he raised rouge tears and stepped forward. With one step, he used his innate magical power of a blood-red setting sun, and with the other, he used his primordial chaos heaven-splitting sword qi. Zhou Ming pointed forward, and his figure disappeared. A thin white line extended from where he stood, piercing through Wang Lu's chest before the primordial chaos heaven-splitting sword qi hit the ground. It was a quick stab. But after being stabbed in the vitals, Wang Lu didn't fall. Instead, he dispersed like smoke, disappearing without a trace along with the powerful primordial chaos sword qi. There was a moment of silence on the martial arts practice field. After a breath of time, someone in the audience suddenly exclaimed and pointed to the sky. Wang Lu's innate magical power did not disappear. The sky above the martial arts practice field was still blood-red, and among the rolling blood clouds, thousands of flying swords fell like a meteor shower. Wang Lu himself stood in the middle of the rain of flying swords, propping up his non-phase sword defense with his abundant magical power. With the binding force of the sword defense, he united the tens of thousands of flying swords, forming a huge meteorite-like whole. If this strike landed, the power that erupted would probably be comparable to Qiong Hua's Kill Immortal Sword. Countless people in the audience were stunned. Unexpectedly, Wang Lu, who was known for his defense, had advanced his attack power to such a level. However, in the face of this appalling strike, Zhou Ming was not in a hurry. His mouth burst out a mantra, and then his 2 sword spirits linked their arms together, spinning and fusing into one, forming a simple red and blue sword. Then the heavy sword went straight to the sky, facing the meteorite formed by thousands of flying swords. Attack against attack? How could a cultivator with brilliant sword heart avoid such a challenge? The next moment, the heavy sword and the meteorite collided head-on. The unstoppable meteorite turned into thousands of sand-like specks of light in the air and then shattered. The rolling blood clouds in the sky also broke through the sky. Zhou Ming's ice and fire sword strike directly broke Wang Lu's innate magical power. However, after this strike, Zhou Ming's face sank slightly. Unlike what the audience saw, he didn't feel like he had won. That strike just now was not the victory of brilliant sword heart after a head-on collision. Instead, Wang Lu resolutely withdrew his power the moment before the collision. Thus, Zhou Ming's all-out strike only broke an empty shell. Wang Lu, this kid, was too slippery. He completely saw his only weakness: it was difficult to fight for a long time while in the King Pill realm. Therefore, he tried every possible way to delay the time. If he used his non-phase sword to defend with all his strength, he would undoubtedly lose. Thus, he chose to attack, or feint. Every attack seemed to be an all-out attack, but every time before the head-on collision, he promptly withdrew his hand. His timing was simply flawless. That was not his immediate reaction. Both of them were in the King Pill realm, so it was impossible for Wang Lu's reaction to be faster than Zhou Ming's. The only explanation was that every time Wang Lu made a move, he had already guessed Zhou Ming's response and responded in advance. But was this possible? Even if he and Lu Li had been together for many years and were very familiar with Brilliant Sword Heart, Zhou Ming's Brilliant Sword Heart and Lu Li's style were completely different. Although they had lived together on the Spirit Sword Mountain for more than 20 years, Zhou Ming and Wang Lu did not often deal with each other, nor did they have a serious sword fight before. However, Wang Lu grasped the details of this battlefield so accurately. Could it be that this kid? Could it be that when he had nothing to do, he has been secretly watching me? Thinking of this, Zhou Ming couldn't help but feel a chill down his back. Wang Lu, you, kid, didn't plan this cross-dressing beauty contest out of personal hobby? Have you really been tortured by your master that you lost hope in women? Chapter 607. On the other side, Wang Lu, who was hiding under the broken meteorite, was very glad that he had just experienced a time travel dream not long ago. Back to 150 years ago, the experience of fighting side by side with the Golden Generation made Wang Lu deeply remember many details of Zhou Ming. Although in the following 150 years, Zhou Ming had undergone great changes, he had mastered the Brilliant Sword Heart, had the ice and fire twin swords that could accompany him for a lifetime, and from the disciple of the King Pill, he became the leader of the brilliant peak that supported a corner of Spirit Sword Mountain. However, there were many things that could not be changed in one's life, especially in Spirit Sword Sect, where sword cultivators pursued their original heart. Since the success of the King Pill, their path would not change. Therefore, Wang Lu grasped the characteristics of Zhou Ming more easily. But it seems like this kind of opportunistic trick is going to end here. Zhou Ming was, after all, a battle-hardened elder of Heavenly Sword Hall. His several moves were predicted in advance, so he would not make his move according to his habit. In other words, the tactic of foresight was ineffective against him. The only way to win was to meet force with force. Fortunately, after several all-out moves, Zhou Ming's strength had been greatly consumed, although his own consumption was also not light. However, as a young man with abundant primordial yang energy, Wang Lu boasted that his cooling speed would not lose to that of an old guy with the ice and fire twin swords. As long as he persisted in the end, he could see the dawn of victory. As soon as this thought came to his mind, Wang Lu felt his vision go black. It's coming. This time, Wang Lu finally couldn't avoid it and directly faced Zhou Ming's Brilliant Sword Heart. The sword power of the leader of the Brilliant Peak was indeed soul-stirring. Once the sword came out, it would suppress people's five senses and make their immortal heart tremble, making it difficult for them to have the will to fight head-on. However, when his five senses were lost, Wang Lu made the most correct response based on his natural fighting intuition. Non-phase sword. Previously, based on his understanding of Zhou Ming, he seized the initiative, using speed to fight speed, attack to attack. However, at this time, if he couldn't seize the initiative, attacking head-on would be a dead end. He could only use all his strength to contend against Fourth Uncle's Brilliant Sword Heart, and then persist until the moment when his strength was exhausted. Boom! Wang Lu exerted all his strength to support his non-phase sword defense. His sword chi expanded like an explosion. However, when it was only a foot away from his body, it was immediately pushed back by a stronger force. Unexpectedly, his sword intent could not be stretched out. The basic rule of non-phase sword defense was that the farther the sword chi was from the body, the more dispersed its power would be. Therefore, when Wang Lu encountered a strong enemy, he would gather the sword chi in a very close place. However, Before this, the expansion and contraction of the non-phase sword defense was in the hands of Wang Lu. But at this time, even if he wanted to expand it, he could not. The next moment, a storm of attacks came, and the foot-long sword defense that Wang Lu was barely able to maintain was instantly riddled with holes by thousands of stabs. The rouge tears in his hand was even more shaky, drifting in the wind and rain. Wang Lu had no choice but to further shrink his strength, sticking the sword chi close to the surface of his body to form the last line of defense, which was built together with his well-tempered body using his non-phase method. It was just that, at this point, the sword defense was naturally out of the question, and the power inside the king pill in his jade mansion was also rapidly consumed. The most powerful replenishing ability of the void spirit root could not be exerted at all. Zhou Ming's brilliant sword intent had completely cut off the connection between Wang Lu and the surrounding spiritual energy. It only took Wang Lu a moment to judge that in this offensive and defensive battle, his odds of winning were no more than 30%. Moreover, fortunately, the opponent was Zhou Ming, so he still had at least a 30% chance of winning. Although this brilliant Peak Lord's core cultivation method was the brilliant sword heart, his temperament and the immortal Tao and the brilliant sword heart were not perfectly compatible. Compared to the indomitable and invincible aura, Zhou Ming preferred dazzling sword techniques. Through thousands of attacks, he weaved an inescapable sword net and finally established a situation of absolute victory. If it were Lu Li, she would only be able to launch a single sword strike. Once that sword strike was launched, the outcome would be decided. Either Wang Lu would not be able to resist and his golden body would be broken, or Lu Li would fail on the verge of success and be defeated by the non-phase sword defense. In that case, he really had no chance at all. Uncle Zhou Ming's sword was indeed the most exquisite and skillful in the world, but non-phase method happened to have the effect of breaking skillful with force. When Wang Lu gave up the subtlety of non-phase sword and used all his power on the last line of defense, Zhou Ming's flowery swordsmanship instead yielded half the result with twice the effort. However, an elder was, after all, an elder. Even with all kinds of favorable factors, Wang Lu's chance of winning was only around 30% at most. Whether he could persist until the last moment, no one dared to guarantee it. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lu finally felt the darkness in front of him gradually dissipate. Wang Lu smiled without saying a word. Do you know that you are deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors? Wang Lu said, this is for the future of 9 regions. Those who sacrifice for this will be famous in history. Famous in history? Isn't it a stink for thousands of years? If it's that good, why don't you sacrifice yourself? Leaving uncle to enjoy the benefits alone is deceiving my master and destroying my ancestors. Disciple would never dare to do that. Zhou Ming gnashed his teeth in hatred. Why did I think of being soft-hearted to this bastard kid? If I knew this would happen, I would have used my primal chaos sword chi as soon as I came up, not giving him the chance to show off his control and consciousness. At that time, he thought that it was, after all, a competition in the ring, and he was bullying the young, so there was no need to be serious like a life-and-death match. But, this kid, Wang Lu, was actually serious. Wang Lu, you have to think about the consequences of this. Wang Lu was silent. He just urged the primal chaos sword chi with rouge tears, which made Zhou Ming's figure sway. Wang Lu, I've always treated you well in Spirit Sword Mountain. Wang Lu ignored him and made up his mind to put righteousness before family. Wang Lu. Zhou Ming shouted himself hoarse, I've handed over little Lu Li, whom I've painstakingly cultivated for decades, to you. You can't be so ungrateful. No matter how good your relationship with that Western continent woman is, it's still behind Lu Li. A person must have principles. Wang Lu was so shocked by these words that the true qi in his jade mansion almost went astray. He couldn't see that Zhou Ming's lower limit was actually so low. Sure enough, after 150 years of not seeing each other, the elders of Heavenly Sword Hall all had unique skills. Unfortunately, I'm a proponent of free love. With that, Rouge Tears pointed forward, and a hard and soft sword force pushed Zhou Ming out of the ring. Chapter 608. Objectively speaking, Wang Lu's victory in this fight was really a fluke. Using the King Pill to fight a Yuanying stage cultivator, moreover, it was a famous abnormal Yuanying stage cultivator in 9 regions. This was a suicidal challenge. Not to mention that Wang Lu had not yet stabilized his footing on the threshold of Peak King Pill. Even if he improved his various cultivation methods and became a genuine Peak King Pill, it was still a fantasy for him to defeat Zhou Ming in the same stage. The victory of this fight, first, was that Zhou Ming was lenient and didn't bring out his life and death momentum. Second, was that Wang Lu's tactical execution was correct, which cleverly consumed Zhou Ming's spirit in the beginning. Third, was the unexpected appearance of Aya, which brought Wang Lu back from the dead. In addition, there was also a bit of luck. If the first few predictions were wrong, if the Primal Chaos Heaven Stealing Sword was not effective, the result of this fight would be very different. After all, the gap in strength was obvious. Except for the abnormal King Pill like Wang Wu, it was far-fetched for a King Pill to fight a Yuanying stage cultivator. However, who cares, I won, ha ha ha. When he walked down the training field, Wang Lu's face was glowing. The significance of this victory was so great that he could not help but be happy. On a smaller note, he had successfully avoided a great humiliation, and he had also passed Aya's test. After the battle, he could clearly see Aya smiling from within the crowd, and then she softly opened her mouth, silently mouthing to him. For the sake of victory, I'll forgive you for deceiving me to concoct the poison. At that time, Wang Lu's heart was finally relieved. Finally, he didn't have to face the anger of the Night King. On a larger note, the victory of the King Pill against a Yuanying stage cultivator undoubtedly proved the feasibility of his cross-level combat strategy. Next, if he let other people implement it, the resistance would be much smaller. As a matter of fact, when the low-level group challenged someone with a higher level, they should not be without the power to fight back. Those cultivators with high cultivation bases wanted to suppress their own cultivation base, but not everyone could do it smoothly. For example, some people's core techniques could only shine after reaching the nascent soul stage. Thus, suppressing them to the King Pill stage was equivalent to directly destroying 90% of their strength. Even if they still had an advantage in terms of awareness, vision, and other aspects, they might not be able to win against the monstrous cultivators of the King Pill stage. Wang Lu's victory this time was undoubtedly a declaration of this point. The low-level group was completely capable of fighting against the high-level group. We also have a high chance of winning against Dixian in the future. So, fourth martial uncle, don't be discouraged. Your sacrifice is very valuable. It will become the stepping stone for our Wanxian League to achieve complete victory in the future. Zhou Ming just coldly looked at Wang Lu. Don't ever think about playing with Lu Li again. Fourth martial uncle, you can't be so petty, right? Moreover, it's not good for you to joke about your own disciple's marriage, right? Zhou Ming coldly said, Lu Li will not be happy with someone like you who deceives her master and destroys her ancestors. Hey, who will I not be happy with? While the two of them were talking, a charming and beautiful girl suddenly jumped out, startling Zhou Ming and forcing him to take several steps back. Why are you here? Lu Li tilted her head and said, Senior brother told me to come here. He said he wanted to give Master a surprise. Master, what did you just say about not being happy? Zhou Ming ignored Lu Li and instead glared at Wang Lu. You actually called Lu Li here in advance? You've been scheming against me from the beginning. Wang Lu said, well, in a fight with an expert like you, I naturally have to consider all the details inside and outside to have a chance of winning. Zhou Ming gnashed his teeth in hatred. However, using Lu Li to threaten Wang Lu was not something he could be confident in, especially in front of Lu Li. Master, tell me, why won't I be happy? Unfortunately, Lu Li was still pestering him, which gave Zhou Ming a splitting headache. Fortunately, he didn't have to worry about these questions because an impatient woman's voice sounded from outside the training field, like a devil's voice pouring into his brain. TSK, who lost the fight just now? Hurry up and report to me, I don't have so much time to waste here. Staying with you bunch of smelly barbarians for even a moment longer will shorten my life, okay? The loser, hurry up and come here. Don't make me wait, do you want to renege on your debt? There are so many people watching, don't be so shameless. As soon as Zhou Ming heard this, he knew that this must be the person in charge of receiving the loser from the beauty contest group. According to Wang Lu's plan, after the fight, the loser would be directly taken over by the beauty contest group. After that, they would be carefully dressed up and put on a public exhibition. Of course, it could also be understood as a public execution. TSK, isn't it said that the people in the beauty contest group are all beauties with outstanding bearing and appearance? How could this person speak so arrogantly and vulgarly? Zhou Ming inwardly cursed, but at the same time, he accepted his fate. Losing to Wang Lu, no matter how many reasons there were, was still a loss. He couldn't just turn hostile and deny it. As for the beauty contest exhibition, alas, everyone will eventually die. Perhaps as early as 150 years ago, this life should have been lost in the savage land. Now that I've lived for so long, it can be considered as a gain. After sighing with emotion, Zhou Ming was ready to set off to find the person in charge of the beauty contest group to die a martyr's death. But at this time, he suddenly found that the surroundings had quieted down. The bustling crowd seemed to be frozen in place, not saying a word. Their eyes were focused on one spot, as if their souls had flown out of their bodies. Following the line of sight of the crowd, Zhou Ming frowned and looked sideways. Then, he saw a dazzling brilliance. What a gorgeous and beautiful woman it was. Her clothes and even every inch of skin on her body were extremely complicated and gorgeous. Moreover, every single detail was flawless, and it was too beautiful to be imagined. She was obviously just one person, but the spectators had a dizzying feeling. Is this the famous person in charge of the beauty contest group? Her name seemed to be Miao Yan. Previously, he had only heard of her name. It was often said that many powerful people were willing to sacrifice their lives for her. At that time, he thought that it was mostly just a rumor. After all, when it came to beautiful women, it wasn't that Spirit Sword Mountain didn't lack them. The master of Carefree Peak, Hua Yun, the Misty Peak's head chef, Aya, and the immortal beast by Shi Xian brought back to the mountain by Wang Lu, were all first-class beauties in the world, but they were not enough to make people lose their souls. But, at this time, it seemed that Zhou Ming really believed that extreme beauty could conquer everything. Whether it was Hua Yun, Aya, or even the fairy-like by Shi Xian, their beauty was limited to the natural level, not much acquired. As for Hua Yun, who had always loved beauty, although she hadn't experienced the catastrophe 150 years ago, her temperament was much livelier. She usually liked to dress up, but it was only limited to liking, not obsessed. Compared with this Taoist master Miao Yan, although they were beautiful, they were not moving enough. The beauty of Miao Yan was really soul-stirring. While Zhou Ming was still in shock, Miao Yan had already walked in front of him and looked him up and down. Tisk, is that you? The one whose nascent soul lost to the king pill? Not bad, to be able to lose like this is also a skill. Although I don't know much about the world of barbaric sword cultivators like you, it stands to reason that a nascent soul should not lose to the king pill, right? But looking at your stupid face, I can guess why you lost. Well, in any case, since you lost, come with me. I will make full use of my skills to dress you up beautifully. Although you are a bit stupid, your appearance is still passable. It's just that your figure is a bit tall, but as long as you wear a gorgeous dress, you can cover it up a bit." While nagging, Miao Yan stretched out her hand to pull Zhou Ming, ready to fly away. But just as her hand touched Zhou Ming's wrist, the latter's body trembled and he retreated several steps, as if he was frightened. Miao Yan laughed and said, "What? Are you afraid? What's there to be afraid of? Don't you believe in my skills? Rest assured, even if it's a pig, I can dress it up beautifully, let alone you. To tell you the truth, joining the beauty contest as a punishment is simply an insult to me. Just you wait, I will dress you up as one of the world's most beautiful women, so that those people can have a good eye-opener." With that, Miao Yan grabbed Zhou Ming's hand again and then stuck a talisman on his wrist. Suddenly, Zhou Ming felt that all his magical power was drained, and then he was involuntarily pulled by Miao Yan and flew up to the sky. "This is the talisman given to me by the organizing committee, saying that it is especially effective to subdue those disobedient losers. It seems like it's true, ha ha ha." As Taoist Master Miao Yan's bell-like laughter gradually faded away, the crowd outside the training field gradually returned to normal. "Senior brother, what happened to Master just now?" Lu Li somewhat worriedly asked Wang Lu. Although she didn't understand the cause and effect, she could see that her master's future seemed to be not good. Wang Lu was also dumbfounded. Looking at the direction where the two people just went, he couldn't speak for a long time. His vision was, of course, much better than Lu Li's, so he could see things on a deeper level. Just now, Zhou Ming was taken away by Taoist Master Miao Yan without any resistance, not because of any talisman, but purely because he gave up resistance and was at the mercy of others. More importantly, after Miao Yan's appearance, Zhou Ming's shock completely exceeded the necessary level. Moreover, as Miao Yan approached, his whole body's magical power and even the immortal heart in his jade mansion were in a highly agitated and disorganized state. Before the talisman even appeared on his body, 90% of his power had already been removed. According to Wang Lu's experience, Zhou Ming's reaction could only explain one thing. "Little Lu Li, your master, he is in heat." Lu Li was baffled. "What's in heat?" Wang Lu sighed with emotion. "That kid Zhou Ming has finally found his home. He is different from Feng Yin, Fang He, and the others who are destined to be alone for a lifetime. He should strive to find his own happiness." Lu Li pulled Wang Lu's sleeve. "Senior brother, I don't understand what you're saying anymore. What the hell is going on?" Wang Lu touched his nose, thought about it in his heart, and then said the matter in a way that Lu Li could understand. "In short, you may have a master's wife. It's that gorgeous big sister just now. In the future, she will most likely become Uncle Zhou Ming's wife. What do you think?" Lu Li looked up and thought for a moment. "I don't know. Because no one in Spirit Sword Mountain has a wife." Chapter 609. The fierce fight between Wang Lu and Zhou Ming quickly spread throughout 9 regions. This fight was a propaganda war carried out by Wang Lu to implement his strategy. He personally appeared on the stage, and his opponent was an elder of Spirit Sword sect. Whether he won or lost, it would bring shame to Lingjian school, which could be said to be full of sincerity. It was just that, a little different from what people expected. In the end, Wang Lu won. They thought that Wang Lu would use his own defeat to personally come on the stage and sacrifice his dignity to suppress the voice of opposition. As a result, he was more vicious than everyone thought and resolutely sacrificed the dignity of his sect's elder. Sure enough, those who achieved great things did not bother about trifles. At the same time, it also made many young cultivators who had long heard of the name of stellar fairy Wang Lulu and were looking forward to it greatly disappointed, among which, naturally, most of them were female cultivators. What's the point of looking at an old man in disguise? I heard that many Xinjiang sect people who have seen the image of Wang Lulu have had their worldview refreshed. Yeah, if it goes through the wonderful hands of Taoist Master Miao Yan, I wonder how beautiful it would be. It's really irresistible to think about it. You silly girls should stop before you go too far, you all have a Taoist companion. It's not the same, Wang Lu is our idol, what's wrong with fantasizing about our idol? That's right, I want to give Wang Lu a child. Hey, aren't you pregnant? Then I'll give it to him. Your Taoist companion will go crazy. Then I want Wang Lu to give me a child. Be careful, he might cut you with his primal chaos sword Qi. In recent times, as the chief planner of the grand competition, Wang Lu's reputation in the union of 10,000 immortals had become more and more like the sun at high noon. Except for a few barbarians who did not eat the food of the common people, most of the cultivators already knew about this legendary Jin Dan. With his high cultivation, his background as the lead disciple of one of the 5 uniques, his handsome appearance, and his legendary experiences, Wang Lu quickly became the dream lover of countless girls, and his reputation even surpassed that of Qianghua. In terms of popularity, among the most popular people in 9 regions during this period, Wang Lu could be compared with He Chudaoren, Supreme Tianluan, and other giants of the Wanxian League. They were second only to a certain idol group that had suddenly emerged and quickly swept the entire 9 regions like a volcanic eruption. Unfortunately, as the person involved, Wang Lu had no time to enjoy this fame. After the battle with Zhou Ming ended, he quickly threw himself into heavy work and training. After the battle between Wang Lu and Zhou Ming, the cross-realm battles continued in an orderly manner. A Supreme's move was no small matter, especially the several sect leaders of the 5 uniques, who represented the last card of the Wanxian League. After all, the basis of the grand competition was the tacit understanding between the Wanxian League and the Dixian. Once the Dixian fell out and refused to admit it, the Wanxian League must have countermeasures. And the Supremes would be the core fighting force, so their cards must be kept until the end. In short, after countless rounds of fighting in the past few days, people found that it was indeed difficult to challenge someone with a higher stage. In addition to the one-on-one fight, the situation in other events was similar. Cultivators with higher stage had considerable advantages in most fields. If they wanted to defeat the strong as the weak, they really needed to think about it. The only exception was the King Pill group. After sorting out and summarizing the situation in the past few days, people were surprised to find that the King Pill cultivators of 9 regions were unusually powerful. They had excellent performance in various events, and the success rate of the cross-stage challenge was much higher than that of the Yuanying stage and Deity stage group. In particular, the performance of the young cultivators who came out in recent decades was even more eye-catching. In addition to the famous disciples such as Wang Lu and Xianghua, some young King Pill cultivators from small and medium-sized sects also showed amazing talent. This was not something that could be explained by 1 or 2 peerless geniuses or by chance. It could only be explained that in recent decades, 9 regions had ushered in a blowout period of immortal cultivation talents. For a time, many sects rejoiced and began to look forward to a better future. Of course, people with a broader vision began to worry that the sudden arrival of these geniuses in 9 regions might not be an auspicious sign. The last time there was a blowout of geniuses was more than 200 years ago, when the Lingjian school in Blue River region had a famous golden generation, and then. However, on the other hand, if the crisis really came, it was not a bad thing to have a group of geniuses with high growth potential. Judging from the past tens of thousands of years of history of 9 regions, every time a great era came, it was always the young people who walked at the forefront of the tide. At the same time, People also understood why Wang Lu wanted to focus the grand competition on King Pill and Yuanying stage, especially the King Pill group. He had high hopes for the growth of these geniuses and looked forward to them creating miracles. However, based on the current progress, it's still difficult to create a progress. In the office in the lava cave area of the back mountain of Royal Soldier Sect, Wang Lu reached out and patted the report on the table, looking slightly dissatisfied. The one-on-one King Pill group that I have high hopes for could only barely defeat the Yuanying group. When it came to the deity group, they were completely wiped out. If they want to win against Dixian like this, it's simply a pipe dream. It's not accurate to say that they were completely wiped out. First, you didn't participate in the fight. Second, at least Murong Bingli Knight Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wuer won. Next to the table, his secretary Hai Yunfan promptly corrected him. Wang Lu smiled and said, "The number 1 King Pill in 9 regions, are you kidding me? Even if she doesn't suppress her stage, in the deity group, except for Feng Yin, no one can beat her, let alone suppressing her stage. She even defeated Dixian, so her victory doesn't count at all." Hai Yunfan said, "If she's excluded, then objectively speaking, the King Pill versus Dixian is completely a pipe dream." Pipe dream? Little Hai, if human beings don't have dreams, what's the difference between them and salted fish? Hai Yunfan froze for a moment and said, "Do you want to say salted fish? It's all the same, how could there be a fish that isn't wet? Alas, since you got married, I feel that you've changed from a teenager full of ideals to a housewife who washes diapers for children all day long. When we just finished the Immortal Gathering, I stayed in Spirit Sword Mountain while you went to 10,000 Arts Sect. Most of our letters were exchanging cultivation experiences. But now, the last letter you gave me was actually asking me to buy the specialty maternal and baby products of Blue River region for you. Little Hai, how could you become so vulgar?" Hai Yunfan said, "A bachelor like you will not understand vulgar happiness. Moreover, if I really want to pursue my dream, should go to the group of immortal tombs to look for opportunities, not to come and draft official documents for you. In short, according to the current progress, it's almost impossible for you to use King Pill and Yuanying to defeat Dixian." "I know." Wang Lu also felt embarrassed at this time. Thus, he stroked his chin with his left hand and rotated a clean writing brush between his fingers with his right hand, lost in thought. After a long time, a flash of inspiration came to his mind. Since the current progress is not good, let's speed up the progress a little. With that, he dipped the writing brush in ink and began to write. "Little Hai, later, help me send a message to the beauty contest group to form a cheerleading team as soon as possible." Hai Yunfan was stunned. "Cheerleading team?" Wang Lu said, "You don't know. It's the beautiful girls who wear sexy and gorgeous clothes and sing and dance on the edge of the arena to cheer for the contestants." Hai Yunfan said, "I know what a cheerleading team is, but I don't know what's the point of doing it. Have you forgotten the situation when I fought against Uncle Zhou Ming? My victory came from the support of the audience outside the arena. At the critical moment, a force came out of my body, which allowed me to turn the tables with my primal chaos heaven-stealing sword. That force is the focus that needs to be paid attention to." Hai Yunfan raised his eyebrows. "Do you mean the power of asterisk 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 asterisk? That's the power of hot blood. Little Hai, you've really become more and more obscene. After marriage, you and Yi Feifei sometimes once and sometimes half a time have completely degenerated you." It was rare for Hai Yunfan to maintain his calm. He slapped the table and scolded, "You're the one sometimes and sometimes half a time. Ha ha ha. In short, if we can make full use of this power, we will have a better chance of winning in the grand competition." Wang Lu said and handed his preliminary draft to Hai Yunfan. "Polish the text according to this outline, and then send it to the beauty contest group." 2 days later, the King Pill group will fight against the Deity Stage group. Then, the popular idol Murong Bingli Night Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wu will form a cheerleading team to cheer for the King Pill group. Let's see if it's effective or not. Chapter 610. Beautiful Creek of Xingjing sect had always been known as a fairyland on earth. It was the seclusion place of the sect leader Supreme He Tu and a number of supreme elders who lived in seclusion. More than 700 years ago, the sect leader of Xingjing sect was a woman. She built a beautiful hall in Beautiful Creek as her own leisure residence. Because of its unique architectural style and meticulous selection of building materials, it was called a wonder of Xingjing sect by many cultivators. However, in the current environment of the grand competition, the beautiful hall of Beautiful Creek was also requisitioned and became a group of women's residents. Today, the most beautiful women in 9 regions gathered here. Every day, they were busy with their makeup for the upcoming grand competition. In addition to their beautiful appearance, they also had to cultivate a perfect temperament. Therefore, although there were many people in the beautiful hall, it was usually quiet. It was just that, at the core of the beautiful hall, there came the angry voice of a woman. Wang Lu, that kid, is simply insatiable. After receiving the flying sword message from Xiaofan, Taoist Master Miao Yan stomped her feet in anger. What does he think of our beauty contest group? A group of girls that he can order around? Helping him dress up like a group of smelly barbarians is one thing, but now he wants us to form a cheerleading team? We are a beauty contest group, not a group that sells jokes. We don't sell our bodies or our skills, okay? Wu Er, what's the matter with your disciple? Standing next to Taoist Master Miao Yan and being questioned by her was the beautiful girl idol Murong Bingli, Night Charm Phoenix, Yen Yuan, Wu Er, who had formed a popular idol group with her. After taking the letter from Xiaofan, the popular idol glanced at it and then said with a smile, "Isn't this good? A win-win opportunity." Miao Yan asked, "What win-win?" "It's clear that we're doing hard work for him. You're really good at lying through your teeth. Because he's your precious disciple, everything he does is right." "Oh, sister, you've wronged me. I'm just stating the facts. Just think about it, as long as we can build a strong cheerleading team and help the lower-level group to successfully challenge the higher-level group, our beauty contest group will immediately become famous in the 9 regions. At that time, no one will say that we are just a group of flower vases. Don't you always say that beauty is a supreme power? I think that's a wonderful saying, and now is a good time to prove it." After hearing what Wang Wu said, Miao Yan thought about it seriously. "You're right. Then, should we really set up a cheerleading team for him? Well, aren't there a few girls who are full of energy and have nothing to do? It was also good to let them go over and exercise. At the same time, we can also let the newly joined pure girls learn how to display their charm." While speaking, Wang Wu held the letter and paced back and forth in the room. After a few laps, she snapped her fingers and said, "Oh, that's right, this plan can be further improved." Wang Lu only thought of the positive incentive role of the cheerleading team, but he didn't think that the cheerleading team could also carry out negative incentive. Miao Yan asked, "What is negative incentive?" "It's..." Wang Wu smiled and whispered in Miao Yan's ear. After listening for a while, Miao Yan's expression changed several times, and finally, she sighed and said, "You two are really worthy to be master and disciple." "That's right, intelligence and beauty are of the same origin." After sending off Wang Wu, Taoist Master Miao Yan sat in the room for a while, patted her cheek, and then took a deep breath and said, "Well, I did it to prove the power of beauty to the world, to practice my own path, so I didn't do anything wrong." Yes, that's it." After talking to herself, Taoist Master Miao Yan got up and went to the residence of the young girls, and shouted in her unique hearty voice, "Well, girls, get up. There's no time to rest, we have a new task soon." Suddenly, the groans and wails of the girls came from the room. We just finished the body etiquette special training, we're tired." Miao Yen scolded, "You can't even do a little exercise? I didn't ask you to serve a man. Stop acting like a spoiled child, get up quickly, or else there will be 2 more classes in the evening, and your favorite sister Wu, will teach you." "Sister Wu, Don't." Suddenly, the room was in chaos. A moment later, more than a dozen beautiful women walked out, gorgeously dressed. All of them were stunning beauties carefully selected by Taoist Master Miao Yen from various sects and places. Moreover, they were young and very malleable, and she had high hopes for them. Seeing this beautiful team in panic, Miao Yen gently nodded and said, "Yes, next, you all have a look at this proposal." The group of girls read it one after another, and then their beautiful faces turned pale. "Don't cheer for those barbarians? That's so shameful, and we have to wear that kind of shameless clothes?" Miao Yen said, "Beauty can't just stay in self-admiration, it's a kind of power, a magical power. I have taught you the basic skills of beauty before, but that's far from enough. Next, you have to dig out this power with your own hands. You have to show this power to the world and let them understand the value of beauty. But, no buts. If you don't want to do positive motivation, I don't mind putting you in the negative motivation group." A girl timidly asked, "Negative motivation group, what is it?" "It's something carefully designed by your sister Wu, If you're interested, I can let you experience it yourself." No, I'm not interested at all." "Since you're not interested, just go and be a cheerleader for me." With the roar of Taoist Master Miao Yen, the girls immediately scattered like birds and beasts. They each used their own means to leave the beautiful hall and went to Royal Soldier Sect. After roaring at these little girls, Taoist Master Miao Yen just sighed. Since she became the person in charge of this beauty contest group, she roared every day more than her normal speech. She had almost forgotten how ordinary people spoke. How could there be any beauty in this kind of appearance? However, it was indeed gratifying to see a group of little girls whose understanding of beauty was still rough, little by little, moving toward the perfect realm under her guidance. Compared to the pursuit of her own beauty, it was also a pleasure to spread the way of beauty to others, especially to those little guys with superior talent. Taoist Master Miao Yen was praised by many as the #1 beauty in 9 regions, which was, of course, an overpraise, and quite suspected of hype. However, her beauty was indeed recognized by many people. It was just that, few people knew that Taoist Master Miao Yen was not a natural beauty. Her current dazzling beauty was completely acquired through cultivation. Therefore, she particularly attached great importance to the cultivation and inheritance of beauty. Alas, I hope that this time, as Wang Wu said, the world can realize the value of beauty, and then more people will devote themselves to the pursuit of beauty. With that, Miao Yen sighed again. Unfortunately, the next thing is to do the most disgusting work. Negative motivation, only she could think of it. With that, she got up and went to another room in the beautiful hall. The waist inside, "Come out, you also have a task." As soon as she said that, a boiling heat wave hit her face in the room. Taoist Master Miao Yen narrowed her eyes with some displeasure. She was very clear that the scorching sensation was not a real high temperature, but rather the boiling resentment released by the people inside the room. These people were not like those chattering little girls from a moment ago. Any one of them was a powerhouse that could shake a region if placed outside, but now they were trapped in the beautiful hall, suffering indescribable humiliation. Negative motivation. What a genius idea, Sister Xiao Wu. In order to attract the eyes and hatred of the people in the world, you're really going all out. After muttering to herself, Daoist Master Miao Yen once again raised her charming eyebrows and said in a clear voice, "Didn't you hear what I said? What are you waiting for?" One day later, the martial arts arena of Royal Soldier Sect once again became crowded. The incessant noise made the valley look like a pot of boiling oil. It stood to reason that this place, which was dedicated to the training of the fighting faction, should not let too many people in. After all, this was the highlight of the grand competition, and at the same time, Royal Soldier Sect had always had a xenophobic tendency. In the previous fights, the overly lively scene made several army leaders of Royal Soldier Sect openly express their dissatisfaction. However, this time, most of the people who came to watch the fight were of high status. This sect's elder, that sect's sect leader, they jointly made a request. Even with the toughness of Royal Soldier Sect, it was inconvenient to forcibly stop them, so they had to let them pass for the time being. As a result, the valley was filled with people. Whether it was those elders or sect leaders, none of them were good people. Not only did they come by themselves, they also brought their families. Their own Daoist companions, relatives, favorite disciples, and the sect's right-hand men, they all brought them here, which made Royal Soldier Sect gnash their teeth in anger. All of this was because in Royal Soldier Sect, an unprecedented and unique fight was about to unfold. The two sides of the fight were not unusual. On one side was the King Pill level team, which was known as the once-in-a-century genius team, and on the other side was the peak deity stage team. A few days ago, there was a showdown between the two sides. The King Pill geniuses that people had high hopes for were defeated one after another. Even Xiaofan, without using her kill immortal sword, lost to the sect leader of Beast Master School, the king of 10,000 beasts. As for Zhu Shiyao, who was also highly anticipated by people, unfortunately, she drew lots against her master, Feng Yin. After the two sides confronted each other for a moment, Zhu Shiyao's eyes oozed blood, and she was defeated without even using her sword. At that time, it made people fully aware that geniuses were not omnipotent. Even if their talent was far higher than their predecessors, even if their opponents were limited to the same stage, the accumulated gap of hundreds of years was still difficult to make up for. Of course, from a good point of view, this unique cross-stage competition was very helpful for these geniuses to grow rapidly in the fight. After experiencing defeat, several King Pill geniuses said that they have gained a lot, and many of the bottlenecks in their cultivation have shown signs of loosening. The problem was, in just a few days, they once again issued a challenge, which was a bit unplanned. However, today, the major sects of 9 regions came not to witness whether these King Pill geniuses really have the ability to turn the tables, but the founder of the recently popular idol group in 9 regions wanted to select the elites from the beauty contest group, and then personally form a sexy and seductive cheerleading team to cheer for the King Pill geniuses. It didn't matter what they cheered for, the key was how sexy and seductive this sexy and seductive cheerleading team was. This was really curious. Immortal cultivation was essentially an exploration of the unknown. A wise man once said that if people had no curiosity, they were no different from salted fish. Therefore, these cultivators who were full of enthusiasm for immortal cultivation gathered here, ready to carefully explore the secret of sexy and seductive. Chapter 6:11. The second King Pill vs. Deity stage match announced by the organizing committee of the grand competition was scheduled to start at noon. However, from the early morning, there was a sea of people inside and outside the valley. Most of these people had quite extraordinary origins. In their respective territories, they were big shots with powerful words. Now, they came thousands of miles ahead of time just to seize a favorable terrain and explore the sexy secret of the cheerleading team. Then there was a long wait. For cultivators with long life, the concept of time had long been different from that of mortals. In the face of a slate, it was common for them to cultivate in seclusion for 3 to 5 years. However, today, after waiting for a long time, people were already a bit impatient. 2 cultivators from the eastern border province were having a quiet conversation behind the sect elder of their sect. "Alas, it's almost noon, why hasn't anyone come yet?" "Do you mean this noon?" "Of course, otherwise, how could those royal soldier sect commanders open the valley for us to come in? Breaking into royal soldier sect at the appointed time is a dead end." "Then why is there no one here? Could it be that they changed the time temporarily?" "Impossible, the elders of Xingjing's sect are still sitting in the front row. If the time is changed, at least they would know, right?" "So, they're late?" "TSK, she's indeed a popular idol, her heirs are even bigger than the Wanxian League master. To let so many people wait, how dare she do that? Hee, don't forget who that popular idol is. Not only would she stand us up, she would do even more outrageous things. Now that you mention it, it seems that her previous reputation is not very good, but," as the young cultivator spoke, he furrowed his brows. A moment later, his brows smoothed out, and his expression became one of infatuation. "But, she's really beautiful." His companion nodded again and again. "Previously, I didn't think that she's the #1 king pill in 9 regions. When I saw her from afar, I only thought that her appearance was pretty good, but it's far from as shocking as it is now. Speaking of which, she's so beautiful, I wonder if she's married or not. Does she have a Taoist companion?" "Pfft, are you stupid? She's now a popular idol, how could idols get married? A woman with a man will lose a lot of charm. The problem is, she may not have a man, but she may have a lot of women, that's true." Just as the 2 of them were indulging in their fantasies, more and more people began to grow impatient. Judging from the scorching sunlight, it should have been time for the battle to begin. However, the person who was supposed to appear had yet to appear. This made people very impatient. Outside the martial arts practice field, just when everyone's anxiety had gradually accumulated to a limit and was about to explode at any moment, boom! Around the valley, large amounts of flames and lava shot up into the sky like an orange-red fountain. What followed was a rolling heat wave and a soul-stirring female voice. The song lingering in the flames and lava seemed to have been roasted by the high temperature. It was full of passion. A moment later, accompanied by the singing, a group of young and beautiful girls emerged from the sea of fire. They danced passionately and enchantingly in midair and the flames turned into mist. They wore dazzling dance costumes that left large swathes of their skin exposed. Then, under the scorching heat and the enthusiastic dance, they were covered with sweat until they were crystal clear. The graceful dance made the audience outside the martial arts practice field thirsty. The background of the lava and flames was even more dazzling. In the end, the song that had been lingering in the field was mellow and fluttering, going straight into people's hearts and constantly rippling in their hearts. Is this the cheerleading team? A deity stage elder sitting in front of the martial arts practice field, watching the performance in front of him, was dumbfounded. As the only successor of the withered Ghost River, Taoist Ghost Ku had not been moved by anything for many years. But at this moment, he had to admit that when the volcanoes around him erupted at the same time and the girls danced in the flames, his already dry heart suddenly had a faint vitality. In particular, a girl with a beautiful curve in the air happened to pass in front of him and threw him a warm smile. That smiling face caused his mind to explode with a bang. Memories surged forth like a surging tide. At the same time, the girls showed their youth and beauty to their heart's content. After a carefully choreographed dance, each of them had the ability to charm all living beings. That sexy dance costume actually did not expose too much, and the key parts were tightly covered. But with their every move, it was as if there was an invisible hand teasing the thoughts and desires of the audience. Halfway through the dance, even some of the cultivators who were known for being old-fashioned and strict began to dance uncontrollably. This enthusiasm quickly spread among the crowd, and soon even some Yuanying and deity stage cultivators joined in. When the singing and dancing reached the climax, Taoist Ghost Ku, who was secretly called Dead Face by many people, actually laughed and sang loudly. Hundreds of female ghosts flew out of his body along with the singing and danced hand in hand with the cheerleaders in midair. Although one side was sunny while the other side was ghostly, the cooperation between the two was inexplicably seamless. This unexpected scene stunned the cultivators in the valley, and then they burst into laughter and thunderous applause. The enthusiasm pushed the climax to the peak. Finally, when the song ended, the surrounding volcanoes returned to silence. Taoist Ghost Ku was silent for a moment, and then he let out a long sigh and took back the female ghosts. His expression became like a dead man again, as if nothing had happened just now. The cheerleaders also finished their dance and stood in a row in the air. A woman in snow-white clothes seemed to step out of the void and stood in front of the girls, smiling like a flower. It was the legendary idol of 9 regions, Murong Bingli Night Charm Phoenix Yen Yuan Wu'er. The singing just now was from this idol who had risen to fame. Unfortunately, as the person in charge of the cheerleaders, she didn't change into sexy clothes like those girls. She still wore that simple and elegant white dress, which made many people secretly disappointed. However, after witnessing the performance just now, even the picky people felt that this trip was not in vain. An idol group was indeed an idol group. They perfectly showed their beauty to the people. However, it seemed that today's program was not over yet. Thank you for your applause and cheers just now, which made me feel that all the previous preparations were not in vain. However, today's protagonist is not us. We are just the opening warm-up. Next, let's invite the protagonists to come on stage and give us a more wonderful performance. With that, the legendary idol turned sideways and stretched out her jade-like arms. Along the direction of her arms, a group of cultivators flew out of the volcanic canyon. They were the King Pill cultivators who trained in a harsh environment. The leader was Wang Lu, and behind him were Qiong-hua, Zhu Shiyao, as well as more than 10 Peak King Pill cultivators from various sections. The official competition was a best of 5. The King Pill level group could send up to 5 people at most. However, taking into account the substitutes and other factors, there were currently 17 people who trained according to the standard of the main team. Today's match would also be these 17 people. Then, it was the deity stage group. Unlike the King Pill level group who trained hard in the volcano, after entering the deity stage, it meant that they would be one of the top people in 9 regions. Whether they were willing or not, their every move would affect thousands of people, and they were destined to enjoy completely different treatment. It was a fantasy for these people to gather in one place to train hard. The difference in their path alone made it difficult for them to coexist. This time, it took the organizing committee a lot of effort to gather these Taoist masters of deity stage. I say, are you guys done or not? Among the Taoist masters of deity stage, an exceptionally tall man with a naked upper body and tattoos on his skin roared in a low voice. Previously, when you called me to participate in the grand competition, I said I'm not interested, but you asked me to come. Fine, for the sake of Beast Master School owing you a favor, I will come. If you want me to fight against that King Pill trash, I will, but my patience is limited. If you want to play games, go play by yourself, don't drag me here to waste my time. The king of 10,000 beasts of Beast Master School was not the strongest among the Taoist masters of deity stage, but he had 666 kinds of beast souls in his body, which was equivalent to 666 lives. One person was an army, which gave him an advantage in a one-on-one fight. Previously, when Xiong-hua fought him, she could not do anything to him without using her kill immortal sword. Xiaofan thought that even if she used her kill immortal sword, it would still be difficult for her to kill 666 beast souls. Among the spirit beasts, there was no lack of species that were good at hiding their lives, and their survival ability was particularly strong. Thus, she took the initiative to admit defeat. For a long time, Xiaofan was recognized as the number one person in the younger generation. After she reached the peak of King Pill, coupled with the power of Kill Immortal Sword, many of the older generation were overshadowed. Except for the number one King Pill in 9 regions, Xiaofan basically represented the limit of Taoist Master King Pill. Since the King of 10,000 Beasts could overcome the limit of King Pill, in his view, this kind of playful fight was simply a waste of time. The King of 10,000 Beasts idea was not unique to him. Among the Taoist masters of deity stage, most of them were not interested in this kind of cross-stage challenge. In this regard, as the leader of King Pill and the planner of the whole event, Wang Lu smiled and said, "Then I'll be straightforward. This time, I asked you to come here because we have the confidence to win." The King of 10,000 Beasts laughed wildly. "Win? Just based on trash like you?" Wang Lu narrowed his eyes and said, "If you're afraid, you can say it directly. As the chief planner of the organizing committee, I'm broad-minded and will never laugh at you. I just want to ask you, are the 666 beast souls in your body old hens? F***CKU. The King of 10,000 Beasts let out a thunderous roar. This irascible and irascible Taoist master of deity stage attacked as soon as he said he would. However, just as this heart-wrenching roar came out, it was blocked by an invisible thick wall. Relying on the instinct of a beast, the King of 10,000 Beasts looked up at a person. It was a woman in a snow-white dress with a languid face. Not long ago, she stood in front of a group of young girls, and her legendary idle temperament made countless people blush. However, at this time, although she was still dressed in the same white dress, her facial features seemed to be very different. She was no longer a glamorous beautiful idol, but the number one King Pill in 9 regions that frightened countless people. The King of 10,000 Beasts froze for a moment, and then his heart suddenly turned cold. Is this your confidence to win? The number one King Pill in 9 regions? Wang Lu chuckled and inwardly said, "Of course not, she just helped me block a move. How could I be so shameless as to use Wang Wu first in the fight? The key to this victory is the cheerleaders." As a result, before Wang Lu could say anything, he saw the King of 10,000 Beasts struggled for a moment and then fiercely stamped his foot. "I admit defeat. Your beauty contest group is in Xingjing, right? I'm going to report myself. Damn it, isn't it just cross-dressing? What's there to be afraid of? Watch me wear a bikini for you to see." With that, a pair of black fleshy wings grew out from his back, and then he soared into the sky with a whistling gust of wind, and then disappeared without a trace in the direction of Xingjing. Wang Lu was dumbfounded. He thought, what the F***CK, he won the fight before it even started? Isn't this too easy to win without doing anything? However, if you, this rough man, really wear a bikini, we are indeed a bit afraid. Chapter 6:12. Wang Lu, if your so-called certain victory is to let her fight, then there is no need to continue today's fight. We all admit that we are not your master's opponent in King Pill stage. After the defeat of the King of 10,000 Beasts, the other Taoist masters of deity stage were not interested in trying. Even Feng Yin, who was recognized as the number one deity stage in 9 regions, once admitted that it was impossible for him to defeat Wang Wu in King Pill stage, so the others didn't need to humiliate themselves. Wang Lu helplessly explained, "She is not in today's King Pill stage list. Haven't any of you deity stage experts seen the list? She is a cheerleader, not a member of the fighting team. Upon hearing this, the other Taoist masters of deity stage hurriedly pulled out the notice of the fight that was sent a few days ago. Sure enough, they saw the list of King Pill stage members in the attachment, but there was no Wang Wu's name. Since it's not Wang Wu, how can you have the certainty to win? Wang Lu said, "This point, I have to invite you and the numerous fellow Taoists present here today to witness it. I can only say that the program I have prepared will not let you down." With that, Wang Lu turned sideways and faced the members of King Pill stage behind him. "Senior Wusu, please make your move." From the crowd, a skinny old man came out. He was no more than 5 feet tall, dressed in a gray-yellow robe, and his slightly stooped back made him look even shorter. He was holding a lantern in his hand, but the candle in the lantern not only did not bring light, it instead dimmed the surrounding light. The old man's face was like a zombie. He slightly turned his head and stiffly said to Wang Lu, "You and I are both King Pill stage members, no need to be too polite and call me senior." With that, Taoist Master Wu Su slowly walked onto the training field. His footsteps were slow and stiff, and every step caused his body to stagger and sway. The lantern in his hand was even more erratic, perfectly playing out what it meant to have one foot in the grave. But after he walked onto the stage, he snorted and said, "I'm still very young." Laughter could be heard from below the stage. This Taoist master Wu Su was also a little famous in the immortal cultivation world. When he was young, he cultivated the wind and thunder body forging method, which tempered his body to an exceptionally tyrannical level. He was obviously from the deceitful sect. The spirit summoning lantern contained thousands of curses and evil spells, yet he was braver and better at fighting than the sword cultivators who specialized in combat. Although it was the King Pill, he had taken the lives of many nascent soul-perfected cultivators. Unfortunately, as he aged, the side effects of the wind and thunder body tempering art gradually appeared. His tall and sturdy body, which was over 10 feet tall at his peak, continued to shrink, and he could no longer endure fierce battles. Even so, with the spirit summoning lantern in his hand and his hundreds of years of battle experience, it was enough for him to be ranked among the top King Pill of his time. The only funny thing was that this old man refused to accept his old age and always thought of himself as a young man in his prime. According to the rumor, at the beginning of this grand competition, the little old man also went to sign up for the men's group of the beauty contest. After Wu Su appeared on the stage, several deity stage cultivators secretly communicated with each other through primordial spirit. Everyone was reluctant to fight against this old King Pill. Wu Su was too old, even older than an old guy like Feng Yin. Even if his evil spell had reached the peak, and he was definitely one of the top powerhouses among the Taoist masters of King Pill, even if he won, it would be an unfair victory. After a discussion, no one volunteered, so Feng Yin sighed. That being the case, then before he could finish, a young man dressed as a scholar smiled and said, "Then let me do it." If sect leader Feng Yin makes his move, what suspense is there in this competition? That would be a waste of the painstaking efforts of your sect's lead disciple. Feng Yin smiled wryly and did not answer. This person was the master of 10,000 Scrolls Building, a top-ranked sect in the Wuxia League, 3 Rivers scholar. His conduct was neither good nor evil. He was not close to any of the major sects, nor alienated. His character was also strange and unpredictable. Just now, the implication of his words was that if he made his move, Wang Lu could not let the sect leader of Spirit Sword sect be defeated and run to the opposite sects. Even if there was a method that could make King Pill win against a deity stage cultivator, it would be a waste of time. However, Wang Lu's sense of belonging and loyalty to Lingjian school was unquestionable. However, it was also unquestionable that this guy would never be soft on his own people. Therefore, when 3 Rivers scholar bravely stepped forward, Feng Yin was really relieved. Because he could finally watch the development of the situation with peace of mind, to see how Wang Lu was going to bridge the huge gap between King Pill and deity stage. After Three Rivers Scholar came to the stage, his face was still filled with an excited smile. Taoist Master Wuxia, I have long heard of your great name. In the past, your wind and thunder body forging method shook the eastern border, and your grace and spirit were all unforgettable. Today, those old guys rely on their status and stage, so let us, two young people, have a good fight. The expression on Taoist Master Wuxia's face was originally tense, but when he heard Three Rivers Scholar mention the two young people, his face suddenly trembled. Three Rivers Scholar raised his eyebrows and said, although I still have a lot of things to say to you, I can't let so many people wait, so let's have a fight first. With that, he lifted a bamboo tube and sternly said, fellow Taoist Wuxia, please be careful. My name is Three Rivers Scholar, and this is my first river. With that, he opened the lid of the bamboo tube and poured out a stream of black ink on the ground of the training field. This bamboo tube seemed small, but its capacity was quite amazing. Soon, the ink flowed into a small river on the ground. Taoist Master Wuxia watched from a distance. Although his face didn't move, the lantern in his hand was stabilized and no longer swayed. The opponent was a Taoist master of deity stage. Even if he forcibly suppressed it to King Pill stage, it was still an insurmountable peak. This seemingly ordinary action must contain some kind of murderous intention. At the same time, the people outside the training field were also paying attention to the means of Three Rivers Scholar. This Taoist master of deity stage had always been known for his strangeness. As the master of 10,000 books building, there was almost no record of him making a move. Therefore, very few people knew his cards. Fortunately, it seemed that they could finally get a glimpse of it. The ink in the bamboo tube was still flowing, far beyond its capacity. However, the technique of storing a mountain in a mustard seed had long been popularized. Since this bamboo tube was the spiritual treasure of Three Rivers Scholar, it was not unusual for it to have this function. It was just that, the ink had been flowing for a long time, yet there was no other function, which was really confusing. After pouring the ink for a while, Three Rivers Scholar also felt strange. Fellow Taoist Wuxia, aren't you going to stop me? If this goes on, I will feel that I have an unfair advantage. I heard that in the past, you were like the wind and thunder, so how could you be so cautious now? You've become lethargic. Other words were fine, but this lethargic sentence immediately angered Wuxia. He immediately shook the lantern, and thousands of ghosts flew out from it. The temperature in the training field plummeted, and the ground was covered with frost. Soon, even the sky became gloomy, and then dark. People talked about it one after another. Unexpectedly, Wuxia's lantern actually contained such a powerful malicious spirit, which could cover the sky and make the sky change color. It was just that, Wuxia was stunned. Because although he had summoned the strongest ghost, he hadn't had the time to arrange the big black sky that could let the ghost display its strongest strength. This covering the sky and the sun was really not his doing. The next moment, Wuxia's Jade Mansion's King Pill violently trembled, and his instinct drove him to look up. A dark waterfall fell from the sky, like a celestial river spilling down to the earth, soaking everything. When the thousands of ghosts in the air were stained by the ink, they immediately screamed and melted, mixed with the ink, and turned into a mass of black. Wuxia himself reacted in time and propped up the same darkness with the lantern, hiding himself in the black rainstorm and barely supporting himself. Three Rivers Scholar really deserved his reputation. This long river of ink, under the King Pill's boundary, already had such power. It was almost comparable to the might of Qianghua Fairy's Kill Immortal Sword. No wonder he said that the victory was unfair. If he had taken advantage of the start of the battle to attack with all his strength, not letting him open the bamboo tube, it could be assumed that this long river of ink would not suddenly have such a strong power. Was it really because of his old age that his character had become slow and cowardly? Could the invincible style of his youth never come back? Thinking of this, the lantern in Taoist master Wu Su's hand swayed again, and then he clearly felt that the surrounding space had become a bit narrower, teetering under the erosion of the long river of ink. King Pill's battle against a deity stage cultivator seemed to be too difficult. Perhaps if the most elite cultivators like Wang Lu and Xiaofan went all out, they would have some chance of winning, but he. After all, he was no longer young. However, at this time, Taoist master Wu Su, who was in the dark, suddenly heard a song. It was an impassioned, blood-boiling song. That song was very mysterious. Although he was listening to it, an image could not help but appear in front of his eyes. This was the resonance of the five senses, stirring people's hearts with sound and projecting information on the other four senses. Before Wu Su's eyes, the girls who danced in the lava and flame before the battle once again unfolded their dance. They danced around the martial arts practice field and sang loudly. In the midst of their singing, they were cheering for themselves. Wu Su froze for a moment and then shook his head. At this time, what was the use of cheering for him? The gap in strength was so big that it was not something that could be reversed by individual will. However, after a while, Wu Su's eyes gradually blurred, completely immersed in the figures of the girls. The singing continued to penetrate, like a clear spring, into his already dried-up jade mansion. A moment later, an inexplicable force began to rise. Wu Su was surprised to find that the strength that he thought he could never recover had actually begun to slowly recover. Was it because of the singing of those girls? Was it because of their flawless dance? Or was it because of their sexy and enchanting body? Or, it was just their vague expectant eyes, which made him return to that high-spirited and youthful time. In a trance, he returned to the past, where his cherished partner was by his side. At that time, they were young and full of passion, sticking together all the time, exchanging each other's feelings in the most intimate way. The sky, the earth, everywhere was their battlefield. When he was young, Taoist master Wu Su indulged in debauchery and left his own traces in many places. But now, as the song gradually reached its climax, he seemed to be young again. In his lower abdomen, a powerful flame was burning. The heat soon spread to every part of his body, moistening the withered, stretching the withered, and giving birth to endless power. Ha ha ha. Girls, thank you for your performance. Now, just watch me. Chapter 613. On the martial arts practice field, a surging heroic voice pierced through the darkness. Then, heavy footsteps shook the earth. Every time it shook, a shockwave would spread out from the martial arts practice field, sweeping through the darkness and tearing countless cracks in the ink-stained world. TSK, you want to break my long river of ink with brute force? Wu Su, you underestimate the power of knowledge and civilization too much. In the darkness, Three Rivers Scholar sneered, and more ink fell from the sky, wrapping the training field tightly. Although Wu Su's wind and thunder divine body could shake the world, it was bound more and more tightly by the soft and hard river of ink. This long river of ink was the lifelong effort of Three Rivers Scholar. Not only it had the soft and hard water aspect, but also the implication of the ink was the carrier of knowledge, symbolizing the immutable spirit of the cultivator civilization. It was the most continuous and endless. Wanting to break it with brute force was as difficult as ascending to the sky. However, the complexion of Three Rivers Scholar also slightly changed. Fortunately, when he went into battle, he was not careless and suppressed his own strength to the level that was infinitely close to Yuanying stage. With this, he could barely exert 30% of the power of the long river of ink. Otherwise, it would have been broken by Wuxia just now. Even if the long river of ink was good at using softness to overcome hardness, it still had its limit. And Wuxia's wind and thunder divine body was infinitely close to the limit of Three River Scholar, so his strength was simply unimaginable. If he displayed such power from the beginning, then the long river of ink would not have the chance to be launched at all. Three River Scholar could not help but rejoice that he finally took the initiative. Otherwise, perhaps this fight would really be overturned. Fortunately, the outcome had been decided. Roar! Taoist Master Wuxia once again let out a roar. His voice rolled, but it was quickly dissipated in the darkness. Don't waste your strength, fellow Taoist Wuxia. Open your mouth so big, be careful not to swallow the ink. As soon as his voice fell, Wuxia's roar came to an abrupt end. Three River Scholar was so surprised that he thought, so obedient? However, the next moment, Three River Scholar was surprised to find that Taoist Master Wuxia actually opened his mouth wide, took a deep breath, and sucked in the ink around him. You're crazy. Damn it. Three River Scholar instantly guessed the intention of the other party. He wanted to use this move to break the long river of ink. This whimsical move really poked the weak point of Three River Scholar. This long river of ink was the means of a Taoist Master of Deity stage, and it was refined using the King Pill realm, so it naturally had a serious flaw: the amount of ink was insufficient. This torrential river-like scene was actually a reincarnation array constructed by Three River Scholar with the help of the endless circulation of water, so that the ink could be continuously recycled. In reality, he didn't use much ink this time. It was only a few million kilograms. For mortals, this was an unimaginable amount. However, for cultivators at the King Pill realm, finding a way to contain millions of kilograms of ink was a piece of cake. This was especially true for cultivators who specialized in body tempering. Their bodies contained countless mysterious techniques, and the technique of storing a large amount of resources in their abdomen in case of emergency was no longer new. And Taoist Master Wuxia was a body-refining master. He took a deep breath like a whale sucking in water, directly sucking up nearly half of Three River Scholar's ink. For a time, even with the reincarnation array, the long river of ink suddenly stagnated. The darkness that wrapped the martial arts arena was full of loopholes. Thus, the people outside the arena finally saw the situation inside the arena. A several zhangs tall and sturdy giant stood on the ground, crazily sucking the ink around him with his mouth wide open. Tens of thousands of kilograms of ink were swallowed into his abdomen, but his muscular abdomen only bulged slightly, seeming to be able to do it with ease. Although he was only in the King Pill realm, the boldness of this sturdy man, as well as the huge amount of ink that he swallowed, were so soul-stirring that many Yuanying deity stage cultivators outside the arena were moved. What a good wind and thunder divine body! No wonder he was known as the invincible King Pill for a period of time when he was young. If not for an accident that caused him to never reach Yuanying stage in his life, he would be one of the strongest people in the Wanxian League today. However, before he went on stage, Taoist Master Wuxia was just an old man with one foot in the grave. How could he be rejuvenated at this time and return to his peak? Is it because of the songs sung by those little girls? That's the only possibility. It's really strange. Although that song is pleasant to the ear, it doesn't make people feel like they're coming back to life, right? Not necessarily. You can't feel the mystery because the song is not directed outside the arena. What we can hear is only the aftermath. Although the duel between Taoist Master Wuxia and Three River Scholar was not over yet, it had already attracted a lot of discussion from the audience. No matter from which aspect, Taoist Master Wuxia, who was old and weak and had lost his spirit, should have no chance of winning against Three River Scholar, who was famous for his hundreds of means. The first half of the fight also confirmed people's speculation. Only Daoist Master Wuxia, who refused to admit his old age and whose body had long been old, could no longer throw out his thunderous fist. Under the wrapping of Three River Scholar's long river of ink, his defeat was already certain. However, at this time, the singing from outside the arena magically awakened the long-lost vitality of Daoist Master Wuxia, which even restored him to his peak state in a short period of time and forcibly broke the long river of ink with his wind and thunder divine body. Was this Wang Lu's way to win? Using the power from outside the arena to boost the power from inside the arena was indeed a wonderful move. According to the rules of the fight, people outside the arena were not allowed to interfere in the fight, but cheering was obviously not prohibited. It was just that, no one had thought that the effect of cheering would be so good. And for the people in the arena, the effect of this earth-shattering turn was even stronger. Three River Scholar helplessly sighed and said, "Miscalculation, miscalculation, I didn't think there would be such a trick. If I had known this earlier, I should have at least added some seasoning to the ink." At this time, Daoist Master Wuxia had completely drunk the long river of ink from Three River Scholar. His abdomen was swollen and his face was flushed, but he still seemed to be able to handle the situation with ease. "Then, are you going to admit defeat, damned soda?" With the return of youth, Daoist Master Wuxia's temperament had also become very different. Three River Scholar's complexion sank. "Don't be happy too early. I just miscalculated in this fight, but it's far from being defeated. You have the ability to swallow a whale, but can you swallow my long river of epic?" With that, Three River Scholar flicked his wrist, and countless scrolls poured out of his sleeves and flew rapidly in the air. The pages of the books were constantly turning, from which thousands of scenes were projected. People saw that on the vast earth, the demons were wreaking havoc, the people were plunged into misery and suffering, and a group of blood-soaked cultivators, backed by the setting sun, resolutely launched an attack against the army of demons. People saw that a white-haired cultivator with a ruddy complexion was working hard next to the alchemy furnace, refining the man-made spirit root into a pill. People saw an epic. The tens of thousands of years of history of cultivators were condensed in these thousands of books, which became the source of power for Three River Scholar. Although limited by the King Pill realm, the long river of epic of Three River Scholar was far from comparable to the real epic of Immortal Path. It was by no means something that could be defeated by brute force. Wuxia solemnly held the lantern in front of him. Apart from brute force, the spiritual treasure inherited from his sect was his only hope. However, in the face of the life-source spiritual treasure of a Daoist Master of Deity stage, he really didn't have the slightest confidence. "To be able to break my long river, Daoist Master Wuxia, your record is enough to be proud of. Fellow Daoist Wang Lu, your cheerleader plan has indeed worked. Unfortunately, I don't want to lose this fight." With that, Three River Scholar suddenly took out a book from the sea of books above his head and read it aloud. Immediately, the heroic figure of the active hero in the epic appeared on the training field. Even though it was just a projection of a spell, the hero who once ruled the world still brought a soul-stirring and powerful aura. Daoist Master Wuxia's complexion remained unchanged, but his left leg could not help but bend, and he knelt on the ground on one knee. At the same time, Wang Lu snapped his fingers at his master. "Show your trump card." Three River Scholar was a bit more powerful than expected. Even if Daoist Master Wuxia exerted his power to the extreme, it was still not enough. Thus, it was difficult to rely on the positive encouragement of the cheerleaders alone. Therefore, it was time for the negative encouragement to appear. "Ha ha ha, I've been waiting for you to say that for a long time." Wang Wu smiled and also snapped her fingers. "Sister Miao Yen, please let our rookie appear. Alas, don't regret it." In mid-air, the helpless voice of Daoist Master Miao Yen sounded. Then, a 4 symbols 8 trigrams transmission array lit up in mid-air, and a burly figure slowly took shape in the array. From the outline of the figure, someone quickly recognized the identity of the person. Hey, isn't that the king of 10,000 beasts who just admitted defeat? How come he came back? This is the transmission array from Shengjing sect. Has he already reported to the beauty contest group? Ha ha ha, I wonder what kind of tribulation he has experienced. Yes, it's really curious, Under the training field, the noisy discussion came to an abrupt end. Because the transmission array had been completed, the figure of the king of 10,000 beasts was completely revealed. He was already so burly and sturdy, and his muscles seemed like they were about to burst. It was just that his clothes were very different from when he left. Pink animal skin skirt, furry fluffy cotton boots, 2 cat claws shaped, exaggeratedly large gloves, and a pair of cat ear ornaments on the top of his head. All of these were worn in a very incongruous way on the body of the king of 10,000 beasts, which formed a stark contrast with the temperament of the king of 10,000 beasts. Outside the martial arts practice field, there was absolute silence. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at this horrifying scene, and no one could say a single word. Even the 2 people who were about to finish their fight on the field could not help but have their attention taken away. Three River Scholar almost lost his breath and interrupted the reading of the epic. Fortunately, he still controlled himself. Otherwise, this was blasphemy against the epic. Once the magical power backfired, the first thing that the projected epic hero would do was to turn around and punish him for the crime of blasphemy. However, the next moment, a more intense blow came. The muscles of the king of 10,000 beasts trembled, and his heart seemed to be in a struggle. But with a sneer from Wang Wu, he finally made up his mind. Three River Scholar, you can do it. The thunderous cheers made the situation on the field almost stagnate. Everyone stared at the king of 10,000 beasts dumbfoundedly. The strong man dressed in pink was trying his best to raise his voice and shout with the sharpest voice he could muster. Three Rivers Scholar. Three Rivers Scholar trembled. Although his mouth was still reciting the epic, his heart was already desperately screaming, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Three Rivers, I will always cheer for you. Can't hear, can't see, can't think, can't hear, can't see, can't think, Three Rivers, I will always love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." In the end, the king of 10,000 beasts drew a crooked heart shape in front of his chest with his hands wearing the cat claw gloves. Three Rivers, I am your cute beast ear girl. Fuck you, get the hell out of here. Three Rivers Scholar's eyes were red, and he directly tore the epic scroll in his hand in half. Chapter 6:14. The battle between King Pill and a deity stage cultivator left everyone in and out of the martial arts arena silent. The battle started in an unexpected way and ended in an unexpected way. It was just that when the battle was over, no one was willing to care about the result. People were more concerned about. Fellow Taoists of Thunder Cliff, can I borrow your brainwashing prop electrode headgear? Lost Heart Fruit, who has lost heart fruit? Fellow Taoists of Hundred Grass Sect, please do me a favor. What about Mengpa soup? Fellow Taoists of Hell Sect, do you have any extra Mengpa soup? This old man is willing to buy it for 100,000 spirit stones. I want some stomach medicine first, I really can't vomit anymore. Phew, fortunately, I was born with a keen spiritual sense, so I stabbed my eyes and ears in advance, and luckily escaped. A moment later, the wailing outside the arena began to rise and fall. After experiencing the disaster, people began to help each other and save themselves, slowly recovering their vitality. Being able to injure hundreds and thousands of cultivators at once, this battle was destined to be recorded in the annals of history. Of course, a certain cute beast ear girl was also destined to become a legend. When the beast ear girl left the arena laughing like a dead person, many people sighed in their hearts, thinking that the Beast Master School would probably be demoted from now on. They didn't know how the other disciples would react, and they saw their leader's beast ear outfit being published in the major newspapers. In any case, if they were to encounter this kind of thing, the only choice would probably be to withdraw from the sect and draw a line with it forever. Thinking of the enmity between the Beast Master School and Wang Lu in the early years of the Grand Cloud Mountain, people had to suspect that this was probably the classic example of Wang Lu's revenge. However, compared with the people on the stage, the scene under the stage was not surprising at all. Cough, cough. Three Rivers Scholar's face was as pale as paper, and black blood flowed from his 7 orifices. His 5 senses were suffering severe torture at the same time. Strong light, noise, stench, bitterness, and pain, any one of these was enough to make an ordinary person's spirit collapse in an instant, but 3 Rivers Scholar had to bear these 5 kinds of torture at the same time until he atoned for his sins. The sin of desecrating the epic. 3 Rivers Scholar was a powerhouse at the peak of deity stage. Supreme Tianluan once predicted that he was only 1 step away from the realm of Supreme. Within the next 100 years, there would be a seat for him in the Wanxian League. However, after experiencing this blow, 3 Rivers Scholar's road to promotion suddenly became bumpy. However, he could not blame others for this. You want to bribe me with a mere mysterious sky crystal? As she said that, she put the mysterious sky crystal, which was worth millions of spirit stones, into her mustard seed bag, and then said righteously, "Now you have deviated from the right path. When you encounter problems, you always think of using money to pave the way. In the long run, it will lead to disaster. I must seriously correct your 3 views. Humph, ugly things should be washed with beauty. I will let you see the beautiful team that I have personally cultivated." With that, Wang Wu clapped her hands. "Girls, get ready to perform on the stage." Wang Lu sighed. "Your face always amazes me." Wang Wu laughed and said, "Haha, as an idol, this face is the thing that makes a living." While talking, Wang Wu reassembled the cheerleaders, put on another gorgeous performance suit, and busied herself on the training field, which finally calmed the resentment of the crowd. After that, the battle between the Golden Core stage and the Divine Transformation stage continued for another 3 rounds. With both positive and negative incentives working together, the next few rounds ended with the Golden Core stage Taoists winning all the battles. Xianghua, Zhu Shiyao, and Wang Lu defeated their opponents respectively, sending them into the abyss of cross-dressing beauty pageant. However, in the competition, Wang Lu also found some problems. Different people had different sensitivities to positive and negative incentives. For example, Taoist Master Wu Su was very sensitive to the youthful and lively beauty. The cheering of those young and beautiful girls could arouse his vitality. However, Zhu Shiyao, on the other hand, was very insensitive to this. Even if the cheerleaders shouted themselves hoarse, they could not arouse her even half of enthusiasm, because in fact, Zhu Shiyao was more youthful and beautiful than all the cheerleaders. At the same time, negative incentives did not work for everyone. For example, for the king of 10,000 beasts, this kind of earth-shattering blow from the cute beast-eared girl was not very effective. Afterward, when people showed him the recorded video, the burly giant just scratched his chest hair, and then grinned and said, "I didn't expect this father to be so cute. Ha ha ha, it's quite fun." At that time, people sighed, "Fun your mother." In short, after these events, Wang Lu realized that although positive and negative incentives were effective, they also needed to be adapted to the local conditions. Beauty and ugliness could not be generalized, they needed to accurately find the audience's pleasure point. Fortunately, there was still time before the start of the competition, so he could organize people to slowly collect the personal pleasure point. Moreover, after further consideration, a person's pleasure point and weakness were often dialectically unified. For example, Taoist master Wuxia liked to be young and energetic, so relatively speaking, old and decrepit things were like poison to him. Three River scholar boasted himself as an intellectual, so he was particularly fond of the white snow in spring. Therefore, things like cute cat-eared girl and the like were particularly lethal to him. Collecting the pleasure point, in a sense, was also collecting the weakness. In normal times, most cultivators would resist this kind of information investigation. However, now that there was the righteousness of the grand competition, Wang Lu was not afraid that others would not obey. In the fight between King Pill and Deity Stage, Wang Lu got a lot of valuable information. For example, Big Sister Zhu Shiyao seemed to have a flawless state of mind, but her excessive dedication to the way of the sword was precisely one of her weaknesses. At that time, in order to stimulate her to defeat a Taoist master of Deity Stage, Wang Lu found a row of immortal sword spirits and tempted Zhu Shiyao in every possible way. Most of these sword spirits came from the hands of the sect leaders and senior elders of the major sections. In addition to their magical abilities as immortal treasure spirits, most of them carried the aura of the wielder. Just by standing outside the arena, they already gave birth to an amazing sword intent. When she saw this row of immortal sword spirits, Zhu Shiyao's eyes shone. Her great sun golden brilliant sword sent out a sword wave that could sweep away thousands of troops and defeated a Taoist master of Deity Stage with brute force. In addition, Qianghua also had a unique incentive model. The lead disciple of Xingjing sect, who was known for her flawlessness, was calm and unruffled in front of anyone. For example, in the first fight between King Pill and Deity Stage, she easily lost to the adorable beast ear girl, the king of 10,000 beasts. At that time, many people questioned that she didn't seem to go all out, but Qianghua herself turned a deaf ear to these doubts. She always had her own considerations in doing things, repeatedly weighing the pros and cons of victory and defeat. She attached great importance to the voice of public opinion, but she never blindly followed it. However, this time, when Wang Lu managed to pull many elders of Xingjing sect and even he too to the sidelines, Qianghua showed an unprecedented tension. The strength of her attack suddenly increased a bit, and her swordsmanship also changed accordingly. Completely regardless of the calm posture, she rushed toward the opponent with an unprecedented tough posture, desperately fighting with all her might. Finally, she turned the tables from the disadvantage step by step and won the victory. Qianghua's point of coolness or sensitivity came from the expectation of the sect elders. As for Wang Lu himself, it was very simple. As long as Aya stood under the stage, Wang Lu would risk his life to snatch the victory. With these gains, Wang Lu determined that there was no direction problem in his plan, so he organized more people to participate in the construction of an unprecedented cheerleading team. In fact, this was also inevitable. The grand competition involved the interests of hundreds of millions of people in 9 regions. However, in the end, only 2,000 people would participate in the competition. The others had the power but could not use it, which was equivalent to a waste of resources. Forming a cheerleading team could effectively avoid this waste. However, in the final analysis, these are just external moves. At this time, it's okay to use it to stimulate everyone's enthusiasm for winning. However, in the competition a month later, we can't rely on these insignificant skills to win. According to the fight between Wang Wu and Bai Zhe, the gap between 9 regions and Dixian is still. Thinking of the competition a month later, Wang Lu's head began to ache again. Chapter 6:15. Little Hai, please tell me a joke. Okay, Once upon a time, there was a mountain, there was a temple, and in the temple, there was a monk telling a story. Wait a minute, what kind of joke is this? What's so funny about it? A joke without a funny point, isn't that funny? Of course, if you're still not satisfied, I can polish this joke a bit more. A talented cultivator from the Wuxia League's 10,000 Arts sect, who is about to face the calamity of the king pill in less than 30 years of cultivation, a man who already has a married partner and a family, now neglects to eat and sleep, even abandoning his family to deal with official business for you, yet you ask him to tell a joke without a funny point. Don't you think that's funny? Little Hai, your resentment is almost materialized. Wang Lu sighed and pushed away the documents on the table. It seems that being busy for a long time will cause more mental pressure than expected. I think we should stop working today and go to the entertainment venue under the banner of Mysterious Sky Mansion. Hai Yunfan sorted out the documents in his hand and said without changing his countenance, I'm a man with a family. Wang Lu said, that's why it's more exciting. Isn't it better to have a wife than a concubine? Seeing that Hai Yunfan was still unmoved, Wang Lu changed his way of persuading him, you have to think about it this way. What you and I are doing now is related to the hundreds of millions of people in 9 regions. If we can't maintain a positive attitude, any flaws in our work would be a crime against hundreds of millions of people. Therefore, at this moment, the most important thing is to make yourself happy. As for your personal family problem, it should give way to the overall situation of 9 regions. Hearing this, Hai Yunfan was also amazed. Unexpectedly, after being a bureaucrat here for more than a month, even destroying other people's marriage and family can rise to the level of the overall situation of 9 regions. If you want to take a vacation, then go by yourself. I still have some official documents to draft here, so I can't accompany you. You don't have to worry about my condition. Feifei just came to see me 2 days ago. I'm in good condition. TSK, this is the ugly face of a married man. But since you said so, then I will leave everything to you. These documents are to be reviewed later, so you can do as you see fit. As Wang Lu spoke, he placed the 3-feet-tall document in front of Hai Yunfan's table, and then disappeared without a trace. Hai Yunfan looked at the mountain of documents in front of him, and the brush in his hand fell to the ground involuntarily. Holy shit! After escaping from the office, Wang Lu took a deep breath. The scorching aura of the lava in the back mountain of Royal Soldier Sect immediately poured into his body, but it was soon cooled down by a burst of cool magical power. Wang Lu had to operate his non-phase immortal heart in order to relax himself. At this time, there was less than half a month before the opening of the grand competition, and the closer it was, the greater the pressure. In the past month or so, Wang Lu had used various means to stimulate the team, and the effect was really remarkable. However, there was still a big gap between the real odds of winning. In particular, the situation in the fighting group was particularly prominent. As the chief planner of the event, the pressure on him was particularly prominent. Even Supreme He too, the person in charge of the entire organizing committee, did not have as much pressure as him. Supreme He too was only in charge of the overall situation, and the event was completely handed over to Wang Lu. At most, he was responsible for the specific implementation, so the pressure was not that heavy. Wang Lu shouldered the heavy responsibility of digging the possibility from the impossible. If this goes on, I'm afraid that in the end, all of us will have to use the heaven-burning blood technique to have a chance to win. However, the effect of the heaven-burning blood technique on the king pill level and above is very weak. Moreover, if it really comes to the point of fighting, there would only be more means on the Dixian side. This is also an evil path. Although from the beginning, I didn't have much hope on the fighting side, the cultural level of Dixian is unknown, so it's not reasonable to blindly bet on the fighting side. Secondly, no matter how low the proportion of fighting side is, it's impossible to be less than half. Wang Lu thought about what other resources he could use, and which group of fighting side could be further improved. At the same time, he took a walk in the back mountain of Royal Soldier Sect. About going down the mountain to indulge in sensual pleasures, it was just to flirt with Little Hai. Now, how could he have the leisure to play with women? Moreover, some time ago, when he was inspecting the formation of the cheerleading team in the beauty contest group, he really saw all kinds of handsome men and beautiful women in 9 regions. In addition, he also watched several large-scale theatrical performances and experienced a round of beauty edification. Now, ordinary women were like clay chickens and pottery dogs in his eyes, completely uninterested. "Hey, isn't this senior brother Wang Lu?" An unexpected greeting interrupted Wang Lu's thoughts. Turning his head, Wang Lu's eyebrows immediately twisted. It took him quite a bit of effort to restrain himself from slaying the demon. "Ha ha ha, don't be so repulsive when you see me. Although I'm indeed a bit weak in the King Pill group, I have just successfully broken through a checkpoint, and my strength has greatly improved. I will definitely make you look at me in a new light." A black-clothed Zen cultivator appeared in front of Wang Lu and enthusiastically showed him his newly repaired black kasaya. Compared with the original kasaya, the new kasaya was obviously strengthened. "Speaking of which, thanks to you breaking my black kasaya last time, I realized that the life-saving unique skill that I have been relying on is not safe. Therefore, I became courageous after knowing shame and further perfected the black kasaya and my cultivation method. Now, even if I have to face the deity stage group, I have some confidence. This can be considered as no construction without destruction, ha ha ha." Luo Xiao laughed heartily. Of course, he didn't get any response. "Well, I think you're a little unhappy. Are you worried about the grand competition? Alas, it's really amazing. A King Pill cultivator is already busy working hard for thousands of people in the entire 9 regions. Wang Lu said, "Since you also know that I'm busy working hard, why don't you do me a favor?" Luo Xiao's spirit was shaken. "Please say it. As long as I can help, I will do my best. Please disembowel yourself here for me to see." "What?" Wang Lu said, "Recently, I've been suffering from depression if I don't watch people commit suicide. Since you are willing to help me solve my problems, why don't you commit suicide for me to see? Let me feel happy and make more contributions to 9 regions." Luo Xiao froze for a moment, and then laughed. "You really have a well-deserved reputation for being humorous. Unfortunately, Flower Stern School strictly forbids its disciples from seeking death. I really can't help you with this problem." Wang Lu thought for a moment and said, "You can't do it yourself, but I can help you." With that, he brought out his rouge tears. You don't have to be so aggressive." Luo Xiao quickly took a few steps back and then said, "Although I know that I'm weak, ugly, and never liked, but if I work hard, I can still be of some use. Now is the time when our 9 regions needs people, so please be merciful." While the two of them were talking, a group of onlookers had gathered around them. Wang Lu thought about it. This Luo Xiao's attitude was extremely low, and he was also the main force of the King Pill group that participated in many projects. For a while, he really couldn't find an excuse to kill this person in broad daylight. However, Wang Lu was unwilling to let this matter slide. He really disliked this Luo Xiao to the extreme, wishing that he could kill him as soon as possible. There was no reason for this intuition, and there was no precedent for it either. Before, Wang Lu had never gnashed his teeth in hatred towards someone for no reason. And because he was so special, Wang Lu didn't intend to let him go. For his intuition, Wang Lu also trusted it to the extreme. "How about this, Luo Xiao? I do have a difficult task for you to complete. Rest assured, it's not to kill you." Luo Xiao was in high spirits. "Good. I will try my best to complete it. Wang Lu pointed to his feet and said, "Last month, I buried a red lotus of hellfire in the depths of this lava sea. With the pure and rich fire element spiritual energy here, it should have bloomed and borne fruit by now. I'll have to trouble you to go deep into the lava sea and pick the fruit." Luo Xiao was stunned for a moment. "Do you mean the lava sea that is used by the royal soldier sect as the primary furnace fire for the arsenal?" "Yes. The lava sea that doubles the firepower with every layer deeper, and is enough to turn all the Taoist master of King Pil into ashes?" "Yes, you're quite clear about it. That red lotus of hell fire is planted by me at a depth of 3,000 feet. You can't delay any longer, just go and come back quickly. That's a one-way trip. 3,000 feet deep, how could I come back alive? Surpass yourself and break through the limit. Didn't you find a way to perfect the black Kasaya last time under my violent sword chi? Maybe this time, after the baptism of the lava, the black Kasaya can be promoted to the immortal rank. How could that be possible? TSK, if people don't have dreams, what's the difference between them and salty water?" Wang Lu shook his head. "If the red lotus of hell fire doesn't work, I remember that before in the eastern border region, there is a geomancy array to raise spirit stones. Among them, there should be a 7-colored glazed stone, which is very useful for my next plan. You can go and get it for me." "Looking for the 7-colored glazed stone on the Earth Top Mountain?" "There should be no problem, but the Earth Top Mountain is the largest mountain in the eastern border region. The top of the mountain has a radius of tens of thousands of miles. May I ask where the 7-colored glazed stone is?" Wang Lu said, "I don't know the specifics, you can look for it slowly." Luo Xiao was dumbfounded. "If it's really important, it doesn't matter if I look for it slowly on the Earth Top Mountain, but in half a month, the grand competition will officially start." Wang Lu patted Luo Xiao's shoulder. "This task is far more important than the victory or defeat of 1 or 2 projects. If you can find that stone, our entire grand competition will have hope. Therefore, even if it's 10 years or 100 years, you have to find the stone for me on the mountain. I want you to make a great heart demon oath that you will not go down the mountain until you find the stone. Do you dare to swear?" Luo Xiao was speechless by Wang Lu. He froze like a stone statue. However, at this time, an unexpected person rushed over. "Wang Lu, if you want to find the 7-colored glazed stone, I have 3,000 outer court disciples at your disposal. However, Luo Xiao is the absolute main force in many projects of the King Pil Group. It's not appropriate to waste his power on looking for it." Wang Lu looked at the person and slowly tilted his head. "Shizhou Jin?" Wang Lu sneered and said, "Of course, it's because the Baldy has developed a new way of playing. In just over half a month, he actually found the head of the 4-element sect to be his godfather. Now, he is the successor of the head of the 4-element sect. Do you think it's necessary to play with him?" Ha Yunfan was also surprised. "Shizhou Jin?" It was rumored that his cultivation was extremely high, but his eyes were at the top of his head, and he did not put anyone in his eyes. Many people in the Wanxian League wanted to talk to him, but it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This Luo Xiao was actually accepted by him as his successor? Wait a moment, I have someone's record here. As he spoke, Ha Yunfan pointed his finger, and a door suddenly opened in the office. Behind the door were countless rows of tall bookshelves that stretched as far as the eye could see, and every bookshelf was filled with information files. Ha Yunfan stood outside the door and loudly instructed, keyword, Luo Xiao. Extract everything. The next moment, tens of thousands of books flew out from the bookshelves, and the sound of pages turning converged like a wave. These books passed through the shuttle door and quickly piled up in the office. Every time they piled up into a mountain of books, Xiaofan would point at the top and gather the books into a jade slip to reduce the volume. Before long, there were more than 30 jade slips in the office, and the information about Luo Xiao was finally extracted. Xiaofan smiled and said, "How do you feel? This is the file collection management system that our 10,000 Arts sect has specially developed for this grand competition. It feels expensive. It costs tens of millions of spirit stones to purchase such a set, yet you guys still have the nerve to ask for the price. Hey, at that time, we only asked for the cost price of 13 million spirit stones, and the rest is the kickback of you, the members of the organizing committee." Wang Lu righteously said, "The principle of the organizing committee is to be pragmatic, honest and efficient. My biggest advantage is that I am honest. I don't know what you're talking about kickbacks." With that, Wang Lu picked up a jade slip and immersed his primordial spirit in it. Suddenly, a large amount of information poured in, all of which were records related to Luo Xiao, including all the activities that he participated in during the training, all the activities, and all the details. The information seemed to be scattered and messy, but it was organized according to clear logic, so it was effortless for him to read it. In addition, his primordial spirit was unusually tough at the peak of the gold core realm, so he quickly finished reading the information. After that, one after another, Wang Lu read more than 30 jade slips in one go, closed his eyes, and began to further sort out the clues. So that's how it is. This guy really hides himself deeply. After a long time, Wang Lu opened his eyes and took a long breath. At this time, Xiaofan had just read 4 or 5 jade slips, so he had no time to sort them out. However, the gap between Peak Shudan stage and Peak King Pill stage was huge. After so many years of friendship, he already knew that Wang Lu was a bookworm, so he didn't think much of it. He directly put down the jade slip and asked for the conclusion, "What do you mean?" Simply put, he carefully arranged it and catered to his liking. 10 days ago, Shizhou and Black and White Ancestor played chess on the Silent Island. Shizhou lost by one move and fell behind step by step, but he just passed by the game and then secretly made a wonderful move for Shizhou, allowing Shizhou to turn defeat into victory. The 4 ministers were overjoyed and asked Luo Xiao what he wanted, and Luo Xiao proposed to be a successor disciple. Shizhou proposed 3 tests, and he completed them one by one, finally making Supreme unable to refuse. After listening to this, Xiaofan couldn't help but laugh, so that's how it is. Shizhou is addicted to chess and pays special attention to winning and losing. He has been an opponent of Black and White Ancestor for many years, but he lost more than he won. If someone can help him win a game, he may indeed get carried away and promise a very high reward. However, the last few tests are fine. The chess skills of Shizhou and Black and White Ancestor can be called the top level in 9 regions, and Black and White Ancestor has left behind the immortal list, so how could he participate in it? How could he help Shizhou win against Black and White Ancestor? Wang Lu said, "Maybe he is a peerless genius. Or he accidentally found an ancient chessboard and was possessed by the former chess saint. The problem of chess skill is not important, the important thing is this." Wang Lu pointed to a newly drawn chart, on which a number of upward curves were drawn with eye-catching colors. This is his progress in each project during the training period. What do you think? Xiaofan picked up the form and looked at it. It's probably amazing, Wang Lu said. Yes, his progress is not inferior to the lead disciples of the 5 uniques, and his talent is very comprehensive. Such talent is rare even in this era of talented people. Shizhou also saw this, so he reluctantly accepted a cultivator of humble birth as his true disciple. In that case, Luo Xiao is indeed a rare talent. Why don't you put aside your prejudice and make good use of his strength? Hai Yunfan said with a smile. Wang Lu did not answer. So far, apart from his intuition, he could not find any evidence to prove that there was anything wrong with Luo Xiao. However, although his intuition could convince him, it could not convince others. Even if it was Hai Yunfan, after listening to his intuition's explanation, he could only be skeptical. If it were a normal person, they would only think that Wang Lu was jealous of the talented and stirring up trouble. Therefore, there was no point in continuing to talk about it, so he simply shut up. Seeing Wang Lu's uneasy face, Hai Yunfan no longer entangled in this issue and said, "Tomorrow is the pre-match meeting with the Dixian, what else do you need to prepare?" Wang Lu said, "Oh, yes, good reminder, I almost forgot. Let me check the equipment." With that, Wang Lu rummaged through his mustard seed bag and took out the equipment and props to check one by one, including the exterminate immortal powder that could seal one's throat upon contact, the golden thunder origin cone that could blow up a mountain into a plain, and the spring brother pill that could instantly replenish one's blood and qi. While Wang Lu rummaged through them, Hai Yunfan was in a cold sweat. "Wang Lu, are you going to have a peaceful meeting or to provoke a dispute?" Wang Lu was stunned. "Little Hai, you've really become stupid from living at home. How could this pre-match meeting be a peaceful meeting? It must be a fight. Fight to show the momentum, fight to show the demeanor, fight to raise the morale, and then officially start the grand competition. You never said before that you're going to start a war with the Dixian today. Do I still need to say that? Little Hai, you, as a secretary, can't learn to figure out the intention of your superior?" After thinking about it briefly, this meeting is the last official meeting between the two sides before the grand competition. The next time they meet, the two sides will fight each other without recognizing each other. Do you want to test the real situation in advance? See what cards the other side has. And to test the real situation, is there any more effective way than to directly make a move? This. So you want to do it yourself? Otherwise, is there anyone more suitable than me? With the cultivation base of the King Pill level, I have been cultivating for less than 30 years. Whether I win or lose, both sides have a way out. And in the King Pill level, the top strength can ensure that my odds of winning against the Dixian are higher than others. In addition, my strong observation and analysis can ensure that I get the most abundant information in the fight. Finally, I am the chief planner of the plan. During this period of time, all the controversial plans were put forward by me. If I don't personally fight with the Earth Immortals, the doubts of those mediocre people will not stop. Hai Yunfan thought for a moment and said, "Actually, it doesn't have to be so troublesome. If you lose in the cross-level challenge and turn into a beautiful girl like the others, there will not be so many people who have opinions." Wang Lu waved his hand and said, "Forget it. My wisdom and beauty will only make more people despair, so there's no need to mention the matter of disguise anymore." With that, Wang Lu had checked all the equipment and props and put them into his mustard seed bag. After applying the seal on the mouth of the bag, Wang Lu's whole person had become murderous. Even Hai Yunfan, as his secretary, could not help but take a few steps back. "Very good, at least we can't lose to the other side in momentum." As Wang Lu said that, he suddenly remembered something and put a piece of white cloth on the desk into his arms. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.